Hello and welcome. I am Anti-Derivative Jill, and this is Indefinite Lunch and Infinite Combinations number 28. And for some reason, my StreamYard is not showing me what I should be seeing. Very strange.
What's
Oh,
it
here it
doing?
goes. What the heck?
Oh,
Well, that's odd. What was that? Did the intro start again for you?
no,
Briefly.
the intro just played once.
Oh, it did? Okay. For some reason, things are laggy for me.
Okay. Well, we're patient.
Right? Okay. Well, this is Indefinite Lunch and Infinite Combinations number 28. And today is Canadian Star Trek Day.
Yay!
When they first saw Mantrap in 1966. I'm joined with Pop Culture Curator and Scotty R37 to review the next episode in production order, Mud's Women. And I had considered skipping ahead to Mantrap, but I really want all my episodes to be in order.
Well, and we'll get to an important reason why, just in terms of continuity.
Yeah,
Yep.
continuity.
And thank you for having me here, Jill. I appreciate it. I'm
I like
looking forward to it.
continuity. Oh, yes. Yes, thank you for being here, Pop Culture Curator. I'd like to remind everyone to make sure they're subscribed to Pop Culture Curator. We have an animated series review show to go along with this one, which we'll have either at 7 or 8 p.m. Central every Monday. Next week, we'll be discussing the sequel to the Trouble with Tribbles episode called More Tribbles, More Troubles. And so that's going to be really fun. Also, remember to subscribe to Scotty R37 and his friends' channel, The Phantasmagorium Show.
Thank you.
And so, yeah, right now they're working through the magic of the Tarantino movies, and tomorrow they'll be reviewing Django Unchained.
Yep.
Which should be a good review. I've never seen it, so I'll be watching it for the first time tonight.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm looking forward to it. But first, most importantly, happy Canadian Star Trek Day. As the
Very
resident
important.
Canadian, thank you.
You're welcome.
And sorry.
So, for reference to the production of these episodes, all of the facts that I'll share will come from Star Trek 365, the original series by Paula M. Black and Terry J. Erdman. And the idea to use this particular text comes from our good friend Raquel R.M. Briggs, who is featured on Cloudburn Times channel. So you need to all subscribe to Cloudburn Times if you haven't already, and read Raquel's amazing short stories. So there's Cloudburn Times channel, and I also had your guys' channel too, Pop Culture Curators,
Thank you.
and also the Phantasmagorium there.
I may also be including a few tidbits from Inside Star Trek: The Real Story by Herbert F. Solow and Robert H. Justman, as well as The Making of Star Trek by Stephen E. Whitfield and Gene Roddenberry.
And I'm just going to be spouting off random things that I remember. They may not be accurate, so I have no facts to back this up.
Good. Yeah, I do appreciate the disclaimer for that, because I appreciate everything you do say,
Thank you.
whether backed up or not. And hello in the chat. We have today Herc130 in the chat, and also Mega Cropper. So cool to see you guys.
Yeah. Ahoy. Hey, there's me.
Yeah, that's you. I guess maybe I should do that. No, that covers up Enterprise. Why do we do that? He says, I vote we skip TAS and TNG and jump straight to Deep Space Nine uncensored. Well, after I'm done, I don't know, I think after I finish reviewing TOS, I actually want to watch For All Mankind, so that's actually where I'm going after TOS.
Oh, wow.
But someday I might do Deep Space Nine. But for now, all your Deep Space Nine needs are provided by Clyburn Times channel. They're reviewing that every Saturday.
Well, and I've been skipping the animated series for so long. It's so great. Hey, Carol.
Carol's here. Hi, Carol.
But I skipped the animated series for so long. It's such a pleasure to be able to watch along with you guys for the animated reviews on Pop Culture Curator's channel. So can't skip it. Have to see it. Fill in my Star Trek knowledge holes. Wait, phrasing?
And I wanted to shout out and
Good
say hello to
phrasing.
everybody. Hello to everyone in the chat. Hello, Bird. Hello, Carol. Hello, Captain Time Lord, Mega Cropper, Herc,
I know, right?
Dalek.
Wow.
Yeah, you got great
Cropper.
stuff.
And Carol is has water. So she had a recent emergency where she didn't have water, but a basic human right, basically. I don't know, but she's got it now, so I'm happy about that.
Absolutely. And big shout out to Sci-Fi Nation for helping make that happen too.
Yeah, yes, Sci-Fi Nation, good job. And Bird of Prey 5, Kapla, and hello to Captain Time Lord. He's got meetings and he's doing some cool stuff.
Business never stops.
And I have a kitty in the background. You can hear it. And Bird of Prey 5 says he's okay. He just doesn't stream regularly. Who are we talking about?
Captain Trek, I guess.
Oh, I guess so. Oh, okay. Hey, Bird, what happened to Captain Trek? I'm getting bored of of somebody. But okay, right. Captain Trek, he still has. He had a morning brew just a couple days ago, but he's not Captain Trek anymore. He's now Captain Fandom Nerd. And hello in the chat to Dalek451.
Dalek!
Oh.
That is the sound of a cat pooping.
No, the cat is scratching against my door.
Oh, okay.
I guess
Never
I
mind.
can let her in. If she gets annoying enough, I'll have to pause and open the door.
Down spot.
Well, I'm just gonna let her in, and then she's gonna meow loudly into the microphone.
We'll have a fourth guest.
Yeah. I know I fed her, so she just wants attention.
But yeah, in Canada back in 1966, the CBC ran The Man Trap. Or was it The Man Trap? Yeah.
Yes, the Man Trap was the first aired episode because they wanted to have a monster of, the week or whatever. I don't know why they did that. The networks.
Well, they did it because you have to remember this is when Twilight Zone was still big. They were coming off the wave of Twilight Zone, Anthology, Outer Limits, all those sort of things. So they were looking for a hook.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And there's a great quote in here now. But before I get to that, Bird Prey 5 likes that I'll be reviewing For All Mankind after TOS. So yes, I'm definitely going to do that. Actually, I had considered doing that now, but I gotta start my Star Trek catalog on my channel. So I'm happy that we're doing this. And Captain Time Lord says it's off topic, but I think my artist and editor are generating sexual tension. Well, actually, that's not off topic for this episode at all. Carol says, "No, kitty, that's Jill's pot pie," which is a reference to South Park. So, and hello to JPRPH1.
Ahoy.
And Gorilla's Random Thought says, they portrayed Mud all wrong. His hat should have been cheetah cowboy hat with the feather in it. And his ship should have had a Cadillac hood ornament with the Dukes of Hazzard's horn. If they're going to make him a pimp, go all out. Well, actually, okay, they went for pirate more than pimp, even though that is his function currently. He's not tied down to just dealing in women. So,
and this is right, and they didn't use the term human trafficking back then, apparently.
No. And hello in chat to the Nerd Pro Lifeform. Walsh, Captain Leo Walsh, named after Leo Penn, a TOS director. Thank you. And so actually the book doesn't have that much on this episode. So I wanted to read from the book regarding the Enterprise herself because she's a character too. And I think this is the only episode where the ship is said to be powered by lithium crystals instead of dilithium. So I'm going to read. And the book has an excerpt from the Bible, the Star Trek Writer's Guide, third revision, dated April 17th, 1967. And so it says, the vessel, the USS Enterprise, is a spaceship, official designation Starship class, somewhat larger than a present-day naval cruiser. It is the largest and most modern type vessel in Starfleet service. It has a crew of 430 persons, approximately one-third of them female. The saucer section of the vessel, at the top of which is our command bridge, is 11 decks thick at the middle. The engineering section, to which the two engine nacelles are attached, is equally large and complex. At the rear is a hangar deck, large enough to hold a whole fleet of today's jetliners. Turbo elevators, which can run both vertically and horizontally, interconnect every deck and compartment of this huge vessel. The Enterprise's engines use matter and antimatter for propulsion, their annihilation of dual matter, creating the fantastic power to warp space and exceed the speed of light. Hyperlight speeds, or space warp speeds, are measured in warp factors. Warp factor 1 is the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, or somewhat over 600 miles per hour. Maximum safe speed is warp 6. At warp 8, the vessel begins to show considerable strain. Warp 7 or 8 are used only in emergencies. The main weaponry of the USS Enterprise is its banks of ship's phasers, which are artillery-sized versions of the hand phasers from the Star Trek Writer's Guide. And I'm going to allow my kitty to come into the room. I'll be right back just in a second.
For sure. Oh, what are your thoughts on the Big E pop culture?
I love the design. I love the thought they put into it, especially considering the time and the year when this was made. A lot of shows and movies really didn't go through that much detail, having all those decks and things like that. And well, it's similar to what I was reading a chapter from Inside Star Trek,
Mm-hmm.
and they were talking about the design of the Enterprise, sick bay, and other things. That a lot of it came from the basically. In fact, there's a quote in this book that Gene Roddenberry sought out the best science fiction writers at the time and got them together to put their ideas on paper, and that's what helped him form what we see before us. That's why the ship is so well thought out. Sick bay and everything else is because it's basically accumulation of a bunch of ideas. And you're
Mm-hmm.
right, guys. I did see you in the chat saying that it was consensual with the women. I do agree. I just and I do agree. It's more of mail order brides. For me that still creeps me out. I don't know. They're still selling themselves for. Uh, I don't know. Maybe it's more of a
Muted.
maybe it's more of a prostitution thing than it is.
Well, and again, this is as it was based on Wagon Train to the Stars. This would have been sort of the old frontier settlers, wivers, which was a thing.
Yes. Now I
Also,
was
this
gonna
came from westerns.
I
Mm-hmm.
was gonna mention that they even mention the word. They even say the word frontier, and I thought that was funny because when they show the actual miners, they're dressed like cowboys rather than miners. But oh well, they even have leather vests. I'm surprised they
Yeah.
don't have spurs and cowboy hats.
Oh, the miners, yeah. Okay, I could see that. I never really watched any westerns, so any kind of insight from that is going to come from you guys. And hello in the chat to Pleasant Valley Picker, CA. He can't chat; he has to head out. But thank you for voting in our poll. These women are consented.
They
Oh, right.
consented.
Yes.
They did.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, they want to be in this transaction.
But so do prostitutes, right? I mean, they're willing, supposedly. Some of them, are at least. I know some of
Right.
them aren't. Yeah.
Uh,
Nerdporeal, you may be correct. I'm
that's
not
true.
sure.
Dilithium was established in the alternate factor. Jesus Christ,
I
alternate
know. I
factor.
can't wait to not like that one.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't wait till we get to the Way of Eden.
That'll be a while. And Pleasant Valley Picker said, I gave it a C, just never been a favorite. Don't have the time to give details, maybe at a later date. Yeah, and you're always welcome to leave a comment later on. I would love comments if anybody
I
wants
was
to
wondering if
add.
I could read an excerpt from this book, Inside Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay.
Whatever.
At first, they're kind of talking about, because you were talking about the Enterprise, and here they're talking about
Mm-hmm.
sort of the design of sickbay.
Oh,
And
cool.
as they were putting together ideas, it says it is now possible to telephone a computer and get a verbal answer to questions originating at more than 100 remote points. Witness the talking computer aboard the Starship Enterprise. There has been
Mhm.
developed an instrumented chair that monitors the vital functions of the body, pulse rate, respirations, heart sounds, and impulses, with no sensors attached to the person. The upholstery of the chair contains a series of electrical pickups which serve the same purpose as strapped on electrodes. It takes the place of the stethoscope, electrocardiogram, and other clinical instruments. Witness the automated medical readout beds in the sick bay aboard the Starship
Mhm.
Enterprise. And then it notes here, it says, scientific fact notwithstanding, it was Roddenberry's intent to employ the world's most famous science fiction writers and convert their futuristic ideas into the visual medium of dramatic television. The
Yeah.
future belonged to them, to the science fiction magazine writers and novelists, and to the sprinkling of science fiction screenwriters, and Gene wanted to share their excitement. Richard Matheson was the most experienced film writer, and as such, found Star Trek less of a challenge than did the others. Several, like A.E. Van Vogt, failed in their efforts to understand this plot and budget constrained medium. Van Vogt submitted a number of story premises that contained unusual ideas and characters, but his premises lacked story ideas and plot twists and contained elements that were unshootable. Some of them, Robert Bloch, Ted Sturgeon, Richard Matheson, Jerry Soule, Jerome Bixby, Norman Spinrad, George Clayton Johnson, and science fiction's incredibly angry young man Harlan Ellison actually wrote episodes for the show. But to his dismay, Roddenberry soon discovered that some of the science fiction writers had great difficulty with the transition. While their inventiveness ran amok with wild and exciting concepts, they were often incapable of developing them into believable dramas and doable scripts. Unfortunately, they were both marvelous storytellers and lousy dramatists. And unfortunately, Roddenberry had given himself yet another problem. Most of the science fiction writer scripts had to be heavily rewritten, and he had to do it, which of course is what
Yeah.
caused the rift between him and Harlan Ellison. Harlan Ellison didn't like that.
Well, yeah, well, it's his show. Makes sense.
Right, but it's Harlan Ellison, his ego. So a little man,
Right.
but a big
Hmm.
ego. Right.
Yeah. Well, you take the stories that are great and you make them fit for Star Trek.
Apparently, this group of writers, they had a an office. They all sat with together and they worked day in and day out, according to this.
Mhm.
And they had a name for the group of writers. They were called the Green Hand. And they were often joking. The studio was often joking with Gene Roddenberry. They thought he was crazy, that these writers could never pull together a show like this. So people would walk by the office gesturing with their hand like he's crazy, like the little ring around the head like he's crazy. And suddenly Harlan Ellison, not a member of the team and an uninvited visitor, burst in and began haranguing the Green Hand. This one's not thinking, I explained, and ushered the visitors back down the old wooden staircase. I wish I could include more, but there's so much, and I don't want to
Well,
read this forever.
no, of course. But
Go ahead.
maybe revisit this when we get to City on the Edge of Forever. We want a whole dissertation of
Oh,
Harlan Ellison's
oh,
life
when we
when we
get to
get
that,
there.
yes, yeah. When we get to that, there's a lot
That
more.
would be
Okay, go
fun.
ahead. Sorry, go ahead, guys.
Okay. No, I was just enjoying the reading. So now I'll see. Bert asked me if I've seen For All Mankind yet. No, I did subscribe to Apple TV or whatever, but I just haven't. I will. I will soon. It's
I think I
definitely
saw
high.
about
It's
I saw
high on
about
my list next to the movies that I have going.
yeah, I think I
Uh,
saw about 15 minutes of the first episode.
mhm. And then let's see. I know I got some more chats here because Nerd Pro Lifeform says, if I remember, the lithium problem was when they tried to extend the shields to Mud's ship. Yes, that's right. The deflectors, and we'll get to that. And yeah, Mud's Women was one of the 3 scripts for a second pilot. Yeah, I heard about that. I had just started looking at it, extra ancillary material for this episode, but I didn't really add them in here. So I really appreciate you bringing them up, Nerdporio. And he continues. Stephen Candell, despite writing the episode, only got a teleplay credit as opposed to a writing credit. Roddenberry snagged the story credit. All right.
That wouldn't be the first time.
And like a that is a claim. That is interesting. I would love to look into that. That's cool. And yes, you asked if I want another voice. If you've seen the episode and you have some stuff to say about it, I would love to hear. And Captain Time Lord Spock gives this episode an A plus because everything is wonderful. I'm glad you're having a good day. And Carol, woohoo! We love Carol. And Matt G. Hello, Matt G.
Hey, Matt.
Well, yeah, Bert is always welcome, either in the chat, on the panel, or even if he just wants to lurk and say nothing. I'll be quite happy just to have him around. Yeah, I just mentioned sitting on the edge of forever. That's a catnip. All right, so today we're
The man of the hour, Tower of Power, James T. Kirk.
yes, this episode first aired on October 13th, 1966. It was written by Gene Roddenberry with my phone going off, and with the teleplay written by Stephen Dandle and directed by Harvey Hart. And the Enterprise is in pursuit of an unidentified vessel. They can't even tell if it's from Earth or what, because it's not giving off the normal registration beam. The ship won't. It also won't respond. So, and it's taxing its engines, just trying to get away because it's clearly trying to run away from the Enterprise. And Spock figures out that it's really a small J cargo ship, just as it loses its engines in a dangerous asteroid belt. And I absolutely have way more stills than I have notes.
Well, and just in terms of I appreciate all of the stills. For anybody who hasn't
Yeah.
actually seen the show, I recommend checking out the episode for sure. But
Right.
this is one of the reasons why I like so many stills. Is there's Uhura, and she is still wearing command gold from the last episode, the Corbomite maneuver. And so I do appreciate you going in production order because it would be kind of weird bouncing back and forth between gold and red.
Yes,
I
this is
agree.
Nichelle Nichols' official second episode.
Yes. Yes, she's still in gold.
And you can see her makeup is much better than in the first episode. So they focus on that a little bit better, which is really great. She looks beautiful. She was
I
a
think she's
little in the previous episode from last week, which was her first episode. She looked a little nervous, maybe, but I think looks like she's settled in a little bit more now, a little more comfortable. but that's just an opinion.
And then also with the upgraded, remastered special effects here, it's so good to see Mud's ship. Oh, sorry, Leo Walsh's ship, sort of ducking and weaving throughout the asteroid belt or asteroid field, and the destruction of it, which we'll get to eventually. But just these updated effects, they don't sort of interfere with the plot, which was the goal of the remastering crew. They just wanted to be able to accentuate, not extend the episodes, or a few new surprises, as one trilogy decided to do in '97. But really complements the episode quite well.
I agree. There wasn't much detail in the original, even though I'm a very fond and a fan of the original effects. We do get a little more actual visual here of what more. It was more of a description before.
Mm-hmm.
And I do appreciate any kind of descriptions on the differences between the original and the remastered, since I've never seen the original. Sorry.
Well, and no, it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah.
But like when these things sort of happened in the '60s, the
Mhm.
models were sort of, because it wasn't HD, it was just filmed for, well, it was filmed for television, and luckily they had the original film masters to clean it up. But even then, the special effects wouldn't have held up really for an HD re-release. And with this, there's definitely definition as opposed to just sort of a light zooming past the screen, or a big flash when a ship blows up. Like when the ship gets hit by one of the asteroids, there's clear definition when it explodes and
Yeah,
flies apart.
it looks great. And hello to the panel. Welcome to the panel, Nerdporo Life One. This is your first time on my channel. Welcome.
Ahoy! Nerdporeal Fenton Mud. Delicious.
Hello, Nidforio. Good to see you.
Um,
I think you're muted.
yeah, I can hear you, but I am happy to have you here once you figure out your
Hailing frequencies.
once your hailing frequencies are open, just feel free to interrupt me with your voice, and we'll talk about you for a bit. But in the meantime, in order to save the ship, the Enterprise uses its deflectors. Wait, is that you?
I think so.
No? Okay. The Enterprise is using its deflector screen to protect the cargo ship, even though it in turn taxes the Enterprise's engines to the point that it's overheating, and we're getting some danger to the lithium crystals, which are being destroyed. And that's one of the noteworthy things in this episode. At this point, they're calling them lithium crystals instead of dilithium. And this is just one of those episodes, that has a lot of really cool shots. So
Mm-hmm.
I really just love all of these pictures. Scotty and Kirk and the red alert. I love that they zoom in on that.
Space, the final frontier.
Hmm. Yeah. And Cavitino Cavalryman Che says, "Good day, everyone. Speaking of women, U.S. Navy now has its first female submarine master chief, petty officer, a technical systems officer in Washington State."
Very cool. Bet you she
Excellent.
must be proud. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. And yeah, of course, Star Trek is always very interested in the real life science and military affairs. So I really appreciate that. We will not be doing that. And Carol says, "I just couldn't do that to Jill. She puts a lot of work into her show. That would be wrong with me because she's my Lacey to my Cagney," which I still actually have never seen Cagney and Lacey, so I really want to see that show just so I could understand this reference. Who I apparently am, because Carol is Cagney and I'm apparently Lacey. So
So
I'm
who's going to
also
be Al Waxman?
see, you know this stuff, and I need to learn. I have so much to learn. Just because I won Cardinal Sins trivia quiz doesn't really mean that I know all that much. It just happens. I just happen to know a lot of the stuff he knows.
And with absolute respect, Jill,
Yeah.
I would like everyone to go to your Patreon and order the list of things that you have to watch. It is a 26-volume encyclopedia Jill Tanica, and it shows up once a month, and we don't know when it's going to stop.
Also, I don't really have a Patreon. Although
No, I know.
I really wish I could talk to Nerdporo Lifeform, but I guess you can't talk right now.
He'll probably be back. He's probably just working out the bugs.
Yeah, right. And Captain Time Lord says, I'm the only person on YouTube that's universally respected. What?
Yeah, you
Okay.
are.
Okay. No, I don't really want to be blushing right now, so I'm going to move
Too
on
late.
to need to discuss the moon landing on the Friday show.
It'll be a Kubrick talk.
Okay, sure, if you want to. Anyway, here's Enterprise and the title. We've got Mud's Women here. The title of the episode. And so, in saving Mud's ass, essentially, one of the crystals is destroyed, and the Enterprise can't protect the ship much longer. So they beam aboard one of the crew. But here we're still on the bridge.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Hello, Nerdporo
Hi.
Lifeform.
Yeah, I've been having mic issues
Mhm.
last couple minutes, so I'm sorry about that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Well, okay.
fine. You
Probably
sound great now.
driver issues and stuff. I don't know.
Thank you for having me on.
Yep.
This is one of the earliest episodes I owned on VHS.
Cool.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
back. They were so expensive when you bought them separately. I remember that.
Yeah, they started at $12.99 if you bought the 90s. If you bought the 90s issued stuff, if you bought the 90s issued stuff, it was like $12.99. Then a few years later, it was like $14.99. So I remember it being like expensive.
Mm-hmm.
VHS
Wow.
too. Yeah.
But if you really love the episode, then
Which
I
we
can
did, and we
understand.
did spend money. Yes.
Yeah, especially if they just release them one at a time, and you're like, oh well, this time I want to buy this one.
Oh yeah,
I
they
managed to
milked
get
it.
50. I
I
managed to
can
get 50
understand that.
tapes within like 7-8 years, and then I finally saw the entire series when they finally all came out on DVD. So
Mhm.
they weren't on
And then
TV
you're like,
that
why do
much.
I have all of these?
Yeah, I know. We've
VHS?
done that, right?
Yeah, I ended up getting I ended up getting rid of all of them, and I think I shouldn't have. 'Cause I
Yeah,
kept them in
no,
good
I know.
condition.
Now they're really collectible.
Yeah,
Well,
that was like the first thing I ever collected that was really like nerdy of me. Like I kept because usually when we opened VHSs, the boxes were never in good condition at all. Like we left either tapes were left out, and then the boxes were easy to fall apart over time. Well, I tried to keep these as in best condition as possible.
keep in mind
Mhm.
too, VHSs do deteriorate over time, so that there's not much of a
Right.
value.
Well,
Yeah.
if you don't watch them.
And if you don't exercise them, as soon as you pop them into a player, they'll get eaten.
Mm-hmm. Well, not as soon. They do have a little bit of a shelf life.
Well, no. What happens is I don't mean from deterioration. What happens is when a VHS tape is rewound, as you guys know, it has two reels in it. When it's rewound to the beginning, most and all of the tape is on one reel, and
Mhm.
it's for most people they stand it vertically in their shelves. And what happens is it settles that way for a while. So what they advise is if you have a tape that's been sitting for a while, pop it in your VHS player, fast forward all the way to the end, then back to the beginning. That exercises and loosens that tape up. Then when you play it, it will not get eaten. But if you have a tape that's been sitting on the shelf for a long time, and then you just pop it in and push play, it has trouble turning that tape, and that's when they tend to break.
Okay.
I used to
remember
repair a
VCRs.
lot of things like that for that reason. People call and say, "It just ate my tape," and I remember somebody was crying over an ET tape. They had one of the original ET VHSs. Little Mermaid, same thing. They popped it in, and it had been sitting on a shelf for a while, but they didn't fast forward at first. So it
I
doesn't mean
remember
it's deteriorated. It's just if it sits for a while.
I remember
Gotcha.
VCRs, VHSs used
Cool.
to like VCRs used to suck at rewinding. So we used to have like a rewinder, like a separate
Yeah.
device that would rewind everything for us.
Hmm.
Well, yes,
Mhm.
and those
Be
rewinders
kind,
were also
rewind.
sold. Yeah, they were also sold to save your VCR the effort, so your VCR wouldn't burn out faster because it was ran by belts, and those
Hmm.
belts tend to
Yeah.
wear out.
And again, Cavatino Calverman says, 30 years later, now we learn this.
Mhm.
Notice how Uhura is
I don't
wearing
even have.
yellow.
Oh, yes, she's still in gold. I don't even have a VCR player anymore. I still have some tapes, but don't have any way to play them.
I think the reason why she's wearing yellow is because this is technically production episode number 4. So first you had The Cage, which never got released until years later. Where No
Yes.
Man Has Gone Before, which was the second pilot. You know, this was originally this was one idea for a second pilot. This episode, believe it or not. Then Corbomite, and this is where Corbomite is where we first meet her, and she's wearing the gold uniform. And then this episode is the last episode we see her with the gold uniform.
Yeah,
Oh, is this the last time? Cool.
I think William Ware Tice was still kind of tweaking things.
Yeah, because I think the first time we see her in her usual red, I think, is in the Man Trap.
Well, and if you look at Spock's shirt in this episode, it looks kind of little big for his size.
Well, what color is it in The Enemy Within? Because that's the next episode.
I don't think she was in The Enemy Within.
Oh, well, that makes it easy then. And Just Carol says, oh. Oh, they're talking about the leash that she has for Captain, which, out of context, anybody who doesn't really understand that YouTuber relationship will sound a little weird. Mick Crupper says R&B had a crush on Uhura. Well, frankly, I have a crush on Uhura. She's gorgeous.
Star Trek 5 fan dance. Come on.
And Captain Time Lord says, I grew up on Star Trek in a time before VCRs. You watched Kirk when he was on. If the phone rang, your evening was effed. I've heard of people who use tape recorders to record the sound from the episode.
I did that. I had an audio cassette recorder I got, and I would hold it up in front of the television and record.
That's
I
probably
feel like
where
a
I heard
fool. No, I was listening to your Tea Time on Friday, and it was another user that said that, and I was driving and I couldn't respond, but I was thinking, oh, I remember doing the same thing.
Oh, then it was Pleasant Valley Picker, one of you guys.
Probably so, yeah. I had a battery operated cassette recorder, and I would record these and other shows, and then later on, late at night or whatever, I would just listen to it and I would visualize it.
Cavatino says, notice how much thigh her is showing. That would make SGWs which is weird because, she wants to wear a miniskirt. She likes the miniskirt. We love it.
And Gene Roddenberry had a discussion with her and the lady who plays Counselor Troy that he didn't want women with their legs spread apart. So they had to kind of convince him to let them cross their legs or fold their legs, I guess it's called.
Oh.
That was actually a big deal with Gene Roddenberry.
Okay.
He was obsessed with legs, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and also don't forget, in the midst of the
That's weird.
sexual revolution, showing some thigh was actually female empowerment.
Right, exactly. And that's this episode, essentially, in a nutshell.
Well, we all wear
that's the
miniskirts.
complete
How are you
idea.
going to avoid it, right?
And so, anyway,
Yo ho, yo ho, a
Right,
pirate's
literally
life for
dressed
me.
like a pirate, right? Surprised he doesn't have a patch.
yes. So from the cargo ship, we get our pirate, our first space pirate here, and one of the crystals. 3 of the crystals by now are gone.
Yeah, I
Yes.
thought it was interesting how Leo Walsh controlled the transporter so that only he would beam solely aboard, and the women later.
Yeah,
He had control over that rather than the transporter operators. I thought that was odd.
Leo Walsh, later we'll learn his real name is Harry Mudd, played by Roger C. Carmel, and I agree that is it helps present him as a villain when he's transported safely first before the women. It shows what kind of person he is.
Yes, it does. Well, and he says it when he says the women are cargo. I guess it literally is all they are to him.
I just really like that shot.
And I love DeForest Kelly here. This whole entire scene with him.
Hmm. Yeah, and I, you know, I think that Carmel, he does a really great job as a villain here. So, or as the antagonist.
Oh,
He's
he's
like, with all
fantastic.
due respect, but where is it that I find myself? Now he's trying to do a mock Irish. He's trying to do a mock Irish accent because Walsh and everything. So
Yeah, it's
just the
all
way
part of his his shtick, his false identity.
I think what happened was they were trying to lock onto somebody and they locked onto him. That's how I always interpreted it. And then they got the other three right before.
Oh, you think so? Okay, so you don't think he was being selfish here?
No, I think
He was
well
just
they were trying
saved
to
first.
elude them. They were trying to elude the Enterprise.
Okay.
I mean, they lured the Enterprise into asteroid field to try to elude them, and it backfired on him because he's not an experienced navigator or pilot. So
True. Yeah, he
Right,
didn't
but
really. He doesn't have a crew.
right, but how did he control the transporter to where it only beamed him aboard? The only
well
men out of
they locked onto him. They only had enough power to lock onto one person at that point, so they locked onto
Oh,
him.
is that what they said? Okay.
Yeah, and they
No,
were
they don't say
struggling to get
that.
the other three.
Yeah, I don't remember them saying that.
They do say that the Enterprise's power is not optimal because of the strain that it put on the ship to use the reflectors on Mud's ship, but they don't say that that has a relation to the transporter. But it's possible.
Right.
That
Well,
that is
did
good.
they
That
say
is good conclusion.
before they beamed the three women aboard? Did they say, "Oh, we have more power now, so we can do three"? I don't remember that.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Kirk was constantly in contact with the transporter room. He was like demanding reports, like, "How many did you get? We only got one, sir. But we got." And then the ship blows up. The asteroid hits the ship, and it's gone. And they're like, "The ship is gone. Did you get the others?" Sky's like, "No, no, sir. But we did
Yes.
lock onto something." That's when they beamed the other three aboard. The three
Right.
ladies.
Yes, they do make a point to say it takes a little bit longer to get the other three passengers because the ship is switching to battery power since three of the
Yeah.
crystals have been destroyed. So
Well, and
yeah,
also you got to remember Walsh. Also,
you're correct.
when Walsh arrived, he said the other three are getting ready, or the other three weren't quite ready, something like that.
I wonder if it's because you know how they have that magnetic stuff. I don't know if it's from the drug or something. Remember later in the episode when what was it, Ruthie or something? Ruthie is in the sick bay, and the McCoy's medical scanners are just going nuts, like a Nintendo, like a Zelda game with music, random music popping out, signals and everything. I kind of wonder if that has something to do with them having a hard time locking on.
Okay, that's a fair assessment.
Mm.
Sure. And hello in the chat to Linrod. He's here. That's cool.
Ahoy, Lenrod.
And here's that the explosion of the J cargo ship, Harry Mudd ship.
Looks a lot better than the original version.
Yeah,
at least we saw something in the original. Just seeing another ship in the original version of the original series was a treat, especially in season 1.
Mm-hmm. And so it takes a while for the ship to do it, but eventually the three women are safely transported, and they completely transfix the men on the ship. They're
look at bones.
yeah, their alluring power serves as a major mystery for this episode. And here the book notes that Spock's collar is looser here so that Leonard Nimoy could take it off and on without having to remove his ears.
Oh, so you could take that collar off if you wanted to.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could take the shirt off, I guess, for the collar. Meanwhile, we see the effect that the women are having on Scotty and Dr. McCoy in particular.
Thirsty Scotty.
Yeah,
lonely men on board the ship or spaceship.
Well, yeah, they're also being. I mean, there are lots of beautiful women on the Enterprise, so they're there's definitely something different about these particular women.
Right. You said a third of the crew were female, right?
Right.
Okay. Cut right there. Hold on right there. That's a shot from sick bay. I don't know why they use it out of continuity, but that's the scene they use later on when he's in sick bay. He's even got a sick bay smock on.
Oh,
Good
yes, right.
point.
I never thought of that.
Me neither. It
Yeah.
was strange.
Hello.
I don't know what room they shot that in, but it doesn't look like she's next to the or in front of the transporter. But it's
No.
just continuity.
Right.
I think that was supposed to be in Kirk's quarters.
And here I can read verbatim regarding the women's outfits. It says
Oh, cool.
here from the book, greater care appears to have been taken with the wardrobe fashioned for Mudd's women. Their garments provide an early glimpse at what was to become a signature element of William Ware Theseus's design philosophy for the show's costumes. It's not that Theseus's creations were scandalously revealing. It's that they often revealed areas of the body typically unseen in public. Case in point, the large diagonal slit running from shoulder to waist in the garment worn by the dark-haired character Ruth reveals the gentle curve of the underside of her breast, a highly unanticipated area of display, and one that magnetically drew everyone's eye. Well, everyone,
Just don't show the navel.
yeah, well, everyone but Spock's at any rate.
And I would say, at least in my opinion, out of the three of the women, the one on the left is about 10 years older than the other two.
Hmm.
The one on the purple,
Yeah, I
red,
see.
red.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Evie.
And she's the main one that we get to hear from.
Wow.
Yeah, right. I just kind of like that.
That's a good one.
Mhm. And I do like how early on in the series we're still developing Spock's character as a Vulcan, with Mudd knowing that Spock can control his emotions. Eve
It's
says,
like, pretty face doesn't affect you at all, does it?
that the pirate is used to buying and selling people, so that's as far as they get to saying that he's a human trafficker, which is why he tells what eventually he tells Captain Kirk that they're not his crew but his cargo.
Well, right, and I think judging by when they show his arrest record, he's an opportunist. He doesn't only deal with humans. I think he just takes whatever comes along, and he just found this as an opportunity, perhaps.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Totally agree.
Exactly. Agreed.
I'm surprised he didn't just say they're passengers, because I mean, that's pretty much what they are. They're pretty much passengers. He's taking them to a Ficus 3 to be settled with husbands.
Right, but he wants to frame them as being very valuable. I think that's why he called them cargo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Hmm. And
You destroyed me ship, Captain, and you're a liar, Mr. Walsh.
Look at that eyebrow.
yeah, no, I love this because I know they're in the middle of deciding just how much emotion Spock should display, but I kind of really like his attitude in this episode. Like he's just above everything.
Well, he almost takes it like it's humorous.
Mm-hmm. He does. He's allowing some of his emotions to come through there, and that's okay because they're still figuring out Spock. And Mudd, who's pretending to be Walsh, tries to accuse Captain Kirk of destroying his ship, but Kirk instead is advising him to seek some legal information. So we know that he's in some kind of trouble.
Yeah, and all the charges will be up against him, I believe. Just Mudd, not the women.
Right. Only Mudd's in trouble. The women are fine.
I just like how Kirk is just like doesn't even really pay attention. It barely looks at him during this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
yeah, he's hard nosed.
Yes, a boss.
Well, not only that though, but he's upset what they've done to his ship because he explains that he goes, "I don't like what you guys did. You basically burned up my ship from us having to chase you." So, yeah, I think he's upset.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
A lot of Star Wars going on in the chat.
Right. And Bones standing at attention, and Scotty was smitten. Yes, he was. And the camera is an unreliable narrator, says Captain Time Lord. You're gonna have to explain that to me later, how that happened. Oh, because of the women. Okay, right. Okay, yes. Never mind. You don't have to explain anything. I get it. Wasn't thinking about that. That is a question. Like, are they? Do they really appear this way? Is the drug making them appear this beautiful, or
That's
are
what's
they
confusing.
actually changed? Are they
Yeah, that's what's
actually transfigured?
yeah, that's what's so confusing. Like they take the drug, spoiler alert, they take the
Right.
drug, but then they
Spoiler.
swap out the drug for something fake and it still works. So it just ends with either you believe in yourself or you don't. So
Yeah, right,
so I'm
right.
guessing when they
It's
get
kind of a
depressed, they look ugly. Is that what it is? And when they're confident, they look good.
I thought it
I
was.
guess
right. It's kind of
It is
beauty's
funny.
on the
possible.
inside, not on the out.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
My
that's the ultimate message of the episode, which is kind of corny.
and what I thought was odd is when they basically gave them a placebo and they tricked them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking that this was similar to what used to be called Spanish fly, but I don't know. It's just an opinion. Aphrodisiac. Some people believed in them, some didn't. They thought that if you believed in it, it worked for you, but they thought it was all mental. So I think that's what those pills were basically kind of like an aphrodisiac.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That's a good idea too. Passengers.
A good girl, American as apple pie. She was a hooker. Little Kojak, thanks, Captain.
Okay, and
Trust me, you don't have to watch Kojak. You're fine.
okay, no, I'll just enjoy whatever references you guys want to share on that.
All right.
So, yeah. So back on the bridge. Well, we're not on the bridge yet because I took so many stills. So there we go. Back on the bridge. I really like these memory cards that Spock is playing with here. And Sulu is escorting Farrell back to the navigational post.
First and
Because
only time that they call him Johnny. That's the only time that you get discount Chekhov's first name.
Johnny O. And because
Back
he's
to reality.
yeah, because he's obsessing over the ladies who have joined the ship. Really, it seems like he's more drunk than the others over this whole thing.
Yeah, but look at Farrell. Come on, those chicks are so out of his league.
It's like you can feel their eyes as they're looking at you. Don't you see it? And George Takei is like, they can know, but he's like, yeah.
Yeah, I saw. Very good, Johnny. Anyway, Scotty and Spock are discussing the more immediate issues regarding the engines and the lack of the lithium crystals. There is apparently only one crystal left, and even it is damaged from having to save Mud in his ship. And Spock suggests rigging a bypass circuit, but Scotty says they can't because they blew the converter assembly. So the threat of power loss is the other major threat of the episode, aside from the mysterious effect that the women are having on the crew, making them uh, behave less than Starfleet standard. And while it's kind of strange that Mud was said to be escorted to his quarters, but here he's still in this briefing room where he's talking to the women. He's trying to
Yeah,
convince.
I
Go
wondered
ahead.
that too. Is this his quarters? Because they said escort him to his quarters and they take him to a briefing room. Maybe they don't have quarters, or this is his quarters. I don't know.
Well, we see his quarters later, so this is
Yes.
just a weird writing thing that happened. So I
Yeah.
don't know. He's trying to convince security to leave. It's kind of a mistake, I guess, and so he can speak more candidly to them, telling them that they need to refuse any sort of medical exam. So that's another hint that there's something off about the women. And Mud says that his name is Leo Walsh and that they will get where they need to go. But Eve is saying that they're going the wrong way. So
and then she screams out, Harry. And he's like, Leo is me name, darling. You know, it's like, shut up, Eve.
Yeah, and
Wow.
right? That's a cool shot.
That is a cool shot.
Mm-mm. So at this point, the crew still thinks that Mud's name is Walsh, as Scotty, Kirk, and Spock talk about having only one crystal left. And so they're headed to Rigel 12, where there's a lithium mining operation less than a day away.
And they call him a jackass, too.
Yeah, I thought that was harsh.
Especially in the 60s. I was like, ooh, it got past...
You can say jackass? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That
Don't worry, they're gonna skin that jackass.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why they really get away with it because they made sure they use that phrase referring to an animal rather than a person. That's why he said you can skin it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And
traveling to Rigel 12, limping
right.
even.
I got the music in my head now. Dun 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 dun.
Well, and speaking of the music, I really enjoy whenever the women are sort of crossing the screen and walking and being oogled.
I know
it's
exactly.
That sort of, it's that sexy boom, boom, boom,
boom, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I have the entire. I don't know if you guys have it. I own the La La Land collection of the entire original series score, and it's just. I love that music that they introduced in this episode in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because the women are intentionally walking that way.
Yep. Yep.
And there's a weird thing that this episode does. I don't get all of the screen caps of this, but they're walking by, but there's like this hexagonal kind of wall in front of the shot, blocking some of the shot, and it's just
like
kind of weird to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where Kirk was speaking through it to one of the ladies.
Mm-hmm. But it was even in the hallway too.
Yes.
Maybe they were too sexy for 60s censors. And even, I think it was, there was an interview with Shatner saying that just the writers were trying to sort of curb Gene Roddenberry's more voracious sexual appetites.
That's
and that
fair.
This episode is actually a miracle that it got through censors, was written and cleaned up for network television.
Because I think, and maybe I'm wrong here. I have to read the full history of this episode, but if I remember correctly, Roddenberry came up with the concept for this episode, but like Stephen Candle really wrote it, created the character of Mud. But at the same time, I mean, I remember how the credits rolled at the end. Roddenberry got the story credit, and Candle only got the teleplay, which I think is less of a credit. You get paid less than getting like a full writer's credit. It's kind of weird how they divide story and teleplay.
Yeah, especially since the teleplay is what we actually hear.
Yeah. And like, you know, like that's just how Roddenberry was to the writers. Like he would take, or he took like half credit for Alexander Courage's score by writing lyrics.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Not just the writers.
Yeah.
Right.
But he didn't really get all that much money for the lyrics or anything. But
50%.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, 50%.
Yeah, but it's like it wasn't.
Well, for him, it wasn't a lot, but for Alexander Courage, it would have been.
Mm-hmm.
It devastated Alexander Courage.
Really?
Oh, yes. There's an interview with him available, a few of them.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I've only read about it. I've not seen the interview. I'll have to look it up now.
Okay, and so Captain Time Lord has brought up a bit of a tangent in this episode. It's gonna be for easy jokes whenever Sulu gets on screen. But is Sulu affected? Then he must be attracted to the women. But if he is retrospectively deemed, oh my, is Sulu's behavior retrospectively lacking canonical verisimilitude?
No, it's so funny.
No. I don't recognize those movies.
So right, no. Sulu is separate from the actual actor. Sulu is a character in a fictional universe.
Until Star Trek Beyond.
Which, even at that point, George Takei said he had no... He sort of bristled back against Sulu in the Kelvin verse being
Exactly.
inferred
Yes.
as
Right.
being
Yes.
oh my, and he's like, that I didn't play it that way. That was not
Well,
my
yeah.
intention. That wasn't the character of Sulu.
And I'm
Right,
glad
I'm
he
an
did that.
actor.
Yeah,
Right. He could have easily said, the other way, but I'm glad he stuck to his guns. I'm glad he did
I'm
that.
glad he did too. He knows
Mhm.
his character and he respects his character and the fans.
then I liked
Unlike
how,
the
but
writers on
it's
the
it's
news.
hard to watch the Naked Time now, and him with the foil going after the dudes, jabbing at them. I just couldn't help but think of
I
George,
don't
and
know.
Georgia Gay doesn't have a shirt on either.
I can still appreciate this for what it is.
Oh yeah.
Especially because I was introduced to this long before I ever was have seen George Takei the man, so I can still take this for what it is.
I accept that Sulu Hikaru Sulu is a heterosexual character in the original series and throughout the movies. And it was only with a minor reference that if you were if you're a Star Trek fan watching Star Trek Beyond, it's like, oh, they made Sulu, oh my. But for anybody
Yeah.
else watching, it's like, oh, I guess that's his brother with his niece or something. They don't even say Demora Sulu
I
in
love.
Beyond.
Oh, speaking of Demorse, well, I loved if you've seen the TOS DVD special features. I loved how he reacted to it. He's like, "Oh, who's the?" He's like, "When did Sulu have a daughter? And who's the mother?" That's how he said it. He's like,
Which
"Who's the
episode was
mother?"
that from?
I think it was season 1, or I think it was season 1 or season 2.
They mentioned Sulu's daughter in this show.
Oh no! In the original
Generations.
series special
Oh
features.
no, yeah, no, I haven't seen that. Sorry.
But I love George Takei's reaction to that. And I think this was around the time that he first announced that he was gay.
Well, one thing too is, which I give him the credit for, is if he never came out of the closet, I guess as a closet, as they say, I never would have known. He's convincing as playing Sulu as a heterosexual man. Unlike these days, they can't seem to convey that. I
Yeah, he's a good actor.
It's hard, right? But these days, that's one reason why I did not like Spock in the new movies. Is I don't know who the actor is or the character is, but as soon as I saw the new Star Trek, as I sat there and they first introduced us to the characters, I said, "Wait a minute, Spock's not gay." I could just he put off the vibe of being gay, and then when
That's
I got
because
to
the actor. That's because Zachary Quinto.
the actor is. That's what I'm saying because he's not a good actor. But
I
George
actually
Takei did
never
not
thought that, but
I
alright.
did because when I brought it up in Star Trek to the Star Trek other Star Trek fans, I said I don't understand it. That Spock acts like he's gay in the new movies. They said, "Don't you insult the actor because he's gay?" I said, "What? I don't even know who the actor is. I'm not saying anything about the actor. I said I'm talking about the character." But they thought I was personally attacking the actor, which I wasn't. It's just that and then especially when they showed him kissing her, it just did not. It made no sense. I mean, everything was conflicting in my head. I don't know, but I don't
Those
want to
must
get
be some
started on that.
subtlety. Yeah, there must those must be some subtleties that just completely miss me.
They
I
are,
don't
and
know. It must
men
be a
can tell,
generational thing.
right? But men can definitely
Well,
tell.
I don't know. I don't think it's like a thing that.
I
I
never
think
got
it's more a generational
I
thing.
could be wrong.
well, and if
No,
that's the vibe that you got off, it's not that you're wrong. It's just the way that you interpreted it. But I always thought that putting Spock and Uhura in the relationship was a big case of the Spock's not gay.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it was. I mean, they based a single scene from the Man Trap to create this kind of pretty cringe relationship, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And Spock was always he was
Very
emotionally
cringe.
compromised too freaking often. I'm like, just stop with this emotional compromise.
yes,
I
yes,
mean,
Yelling
that's
and-
absolutely
That's not
right. But
interesting.
that's going to be discussed on a Friday stream one day when I actually rewatch The Filth, and I'll talk about it more with Scotty. If
Well,
he's
yeah, when they
still
show him,
around.
anymore.
when they show him
Yeah,
screaming and
no.
yelling
Oh
and
my God,
throwing,
yeah. No, that's my biggest problem with those movies is what they do to Spock's character. I agree completely. It's
right?
awful.
When they show him screaming, yelling, and throwing punches, it looks more like somebody having a tantrum. I
Mm-hmm.
was expecting him to start scratching and slapping.
They do it in all three of the movies. It's not
Oh
cool.
yeah,
But so when Nimoy does do something like that, which is very very very
It's supposed to be
not very
rare.
often, it's impactful. Like
Yes.
when he attacks, when Kirk, in This Side of Paradise, when Kirk, provokes him into an attack by calling him, a computerized half breed.
Mhm.
and calls his mother calls his father a traitor for marrying his mother.
And that's powerful because
Yeah.
Spock is altered by the spores. There's an actual reason why he's behaving the way he is.
Yeah. And it
And
took
why
like
he's
several tries, even with the spores, to get him to react that way. So there you go.
nice.
And Cavitano Calvaryman Shea says Zachary Quinto's character from Heroes did not come off as oh my to me, and I thank you so much for adopting oh my as a synonym for gay.
I actually first saw him in in 24. He was in season 1.
He was
Zachary
in 24.
Quinto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was in the CTU. He was one of the techs at CTU. So that's where I first actually saw him in anything.
I first saw him in Star Trek 2009.
Yeah.
I was confused because Leonard Nimoy was swearing that he was perfect. I was like, what? I don't get it.
Well, Leonard
You're
Nimoy
sure-
liked it. Like you know how Nimoy he rejected scripts left and right. Like people asked him to be in Generations, he refused.
Well, the roles were
but
too small. He said you could just give this to anybody.
yeah, but he loved, for some reason, he loved the script of Abrams's 2009 movie, and heck, he
Oh.
even appeared in Into Darkness.
Well,
I
yeah,
forgive Leonard Nimoy for being in those movies.
that's what I say too. It's like I don't know. Was he desperate for money? Because I have to put
No,
it
I
that way
don't
too.
think
Is I
so.
have to forgive him. Is the way I look at it for being in those new movies.
Mhm.
I think it was a mistake.
I
I
do.
think William Shatner was wise by not doing it.
Well, and
Me
even
too.
that's a whole other kettle of fish. That's a whole other ship full of tribbles.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Nimoy too much to be mad at him for that.
Remember-
I will quote this. I will say this. He was on Saturday Night Live
Mhm.
during the promotion of Star Trek 2009. And they asked, this is Leonard Nimoy, not Spock, of course. They asked him, they said, so what do you think for all those Star Trek fans out there that are hesitant, that don't want to go see the new movie? And he said, well, then they are dickheads.
Ha!
that's Nimoy.
That's not Spock. That's Leonard Nimoy.
Right. Well, then the interviewer should have asked Spock, because Leonard Nimoy could conjure Spock at a request.
Well, I thought
They
that
asked
was
the wrong person.
well. Not only that though, but I thought that was, and we know Leonard Nimoy could have controlled what he said. I think Leonard Nimoy was pushing too hard to promote that movie. Is what I
Mhm.
thought. I thought, oh
Maybe.
come on, you're being too big of a shield now at this point.
Well, it's going to be a whole conversation once we get into the filth.
And we will, but not here.
Sorry,
And
I
so
won't be there to
let's-
wallow around in this
okay.
cesspool.
Yeah, it's okay. In the meantime, they're having a hearing to figure out what is going on with this pirate. They think it's called Walsh. But the computer seems to be operating very much like a lie detector, except one that actually works. And it goads him into admitting that his real name is Harcourt Fentonmud, which in turn helps the computer pull up a record of his smuggling and his attempt at and the attempt that the Federation had, or whoever had, at treating his crimes with psychiatric treatment.
Right, it's hilarious, the expressions, and to watch him squirm, especially when they talk about the psychiatric part of it.
Yeah, he does a very good job.
And what does he
There it
say in
is.
that scene? Blast that tin-plated pot.
Yep.
By the way, guess what I got? Guess what I just got in the mail?
What's
What
that?
did you just get?
Oh,
Oh,
dude, it's out today, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Got it from
Beautiful.
Amazon.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
I can't wait to watch this. Like, seeing this in the theater a few months ago was like a magical experience. And I'm going to go see Wrath of Khan in a couple of days. I can't miss that one either.
And
I want to check out this new Jaws in 3D on IMAX. That's
I couldn't
incredible.
really see because the screen is small for me. Did you get the 4K?
That's 4K, I think.
Oh yeah, that's great. And
The director's edition, too.
Well,
yeah,
they're going to come out with an entire bundle, right, of all those in a 4K. I think I was looking at.
I think so. Yeah, I think they announced 5 and 6. They came out with a stupid idea to release 1 through 4. I'm like, why
right?
did they do that?
Why not release all 6 of them? It's so
Yeah.
weird.
Milk,
Fans will wait.
resell, because they know the fans will buy them over and over. I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
sad, but they're right.
So I'm gonna wait till I can get all 1 through 6 then.
Mhm.
on
And
4K
also,
all
I-
together.
I feel like just the disdain that Paramount has for Star Trek V and the perceived lack of interest in it. I thought that was a speed bump in their release. I have no facts to back this up, but I was like, oh, they stopped at 4 because they don't like Final Frontier.
Well,
Did they ever
that's
do an
sad.
upgrade for Star Trek V? Did they ever do a 4K?
They are releasing it if it's not already.
I love all of the original series.
I know we
movies.
do as fans,
Yeah,
but
same
yeah,
here.
to Paramount as the redhead stepchild. Notice here, Harry Mudd is wearing the exact same clothes he is in this room right now.
And yeah,
Yeah, no. I mean,
And also-
they had blue jumpsuits. He could have worn a blue jumpsuit in this picture.
well, then how would
And
you
take
show off
the earring.
his
Right.
mighty collarbone fur? I was
Right.
always impressed by his chest hair almost attacking his neck.
Yeah, he must have been a very hairy man, apparently. I would have shaved a little lower.
Or worn a higher cut shirt. Come on, man.
But I do remember, I'm old. Women loved men's chest hair back then. I don't know if it's still the same, but women loved men's chest
No.
hair.
Well, and as
So-
Lenrod says, don't mess with a man with a mustache.
Oh, I must have missed that comment.
Oh, I think it's still coming up. I don't mean to jump ahead, but
Oh no, I don't know where I am in the comments. Actually, I get lost. Oh, thing. Okay, so yeah, I'm not. We'll talk about that some other time.
that'll be a future episode.
Yes.
And Jill will have to defend the Kelvin verse. It'll be awesome.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tear it apart.
Nero's
Oh.
still the greatest villain ever.
No, what?
I'm more of a John
Um,
Harrison man myself.
Ooh.
Back
That's
to
why
the TNT.
I don't recognize Khan. I'm sorry. He's John
Yeah.
Harrison.
Yeah.
He's
Why is
another. He's another.
Ricardo Montalban or nobody.
Exactly. I agree.
I'm confused. You don't recognize Khan as what?
You
Khan.
don't. He didn't recognize.
Benedict Cumberbatch is Khan. He's not Khan. He's John.
Great
Harrison.
actor, but not.
Oh yeah.
He's
Not Khan.
he's Sherlock. Definitely.
Mhm.
He's Sherlock. He's John Harrison. He's Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
And he's Smaug.
Smaug.
Smog. Yeah, he was great as Smog.
And
That's
he
one of
was
the
also
best
Sauron too in the Hobbits.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he was also too
He was
smug.
Sauron. Wow.
I sort of regard. I can't talk about Lord of the Rings.
I know, and that's a whole part of my channel that has yet to be birthed. Is my love for some of the more fantasy
Well,
related
if
genres.
you need to take a nap, or if you're like you're tired and you need to sleep, put on Rings of Power.
No,
Oh.
all right, better than Ambien according to Doomcock.
Ha.
Yeah. Anyway, how did we get there? See, this is why we can't talk about the filth.
Just in regards to this, I like that there's a future police record, and psychiatric treatment effectiveness disputed.
Yeah.
No dates. No dates. You think they'd have some dates? Prison sentence, something.
Mm-hmm.
Birth
I guess
date.
he has antisocial personality disorder or something.
Nice handwriting.
Mhm.
Something along the lines of what characters from like Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad have. Those type of personalities, compelled to do crime and everything. And
Yeah, Kirk tells him about this. Mr. Mudd, you're charged with galaxy travel without a flight plan, without an identification beam, and failure to answer a starship signal, thus effecting a menace to navigation.
a menace to navigation.
My little ship.
My little ship in this immense galaxy. The menace. I love that. I love that laugh.
Roger C.
laugh.
Carmel is so good in this episode. He's just charismatic as all.
No,
get
I
out.
think at this point in his career, he was on like every show, every major show in the '60s. I remember he was Colonel Gum in Batman.
Yep.
He was one of the villains in Batman, and
I just recently saw an Addams Family with him. I think it was Addams Family.
Yes, but I have to say, in similar, it's funny because you guys mentioned that. First of all, I think his character, in my opinion, is similar to Cyrano Jones from the Troubled Tribbles. Like they're smugglers. They'll
Yep.
do it. They're not really. They're not a murderer. They won't hurt anybody physically. They'll just do whatever they can to make money. But both actors in real life, they fell out of fame in the early '70s, and I'll just say that their passing wasn't very nice, unfortunately.
Well, I heard Stanley Adams, who plays Cyrano Jones, actually committed suicide.
He did.
Oh no.
His career went down the tubes. He
Oh,
did.
really?
And
Yeah.
he wrote, I believe, Stanley Adams wrote.
That's sad.
He wrote The Lights of Zetar in season 3.
Yeah.
and
One
he
of the last
also, I think, he reprised Cyrano Jones in the was it the
Animated
TAS?
Yeah,
more troubles, more problems.
More
Yes,
troubles,
we'll
more
be
troubles
we'll be covering that next Monday.
next week. But I watched. I have the old original Odd Couple TV series, and he was on there, and that was one of the last things he did, and that was around.
Oh.
It was not long after the animated series. It was around mid '70s, somewhere around there is when it happened.
Now I remember Roger C. Carmel went into like voice acting in the 80s, so he was in like Transformers. He was in a whole bunch of. He provided his voice for a bunch of cartoons, and he lost weight. He lost quite a bit of weight in the late 70s because I saw him. I recognized him when I was watching, old episodes of All in the Family in the late 70s, and there was a picture. There was one where I forget he plays an insurance salesman, and he lost like he was slim, and
Wow.
this was 78, I believe. So he lost a lot of weight in the 70s, but he ended up still dying of a massive heart attack in the mid 80s. And that's why he died the year before TNG came out, because they were going to originally have him be in the Neutral Zone episode of the first season of TNG.
So cool.
He would have been one of those guys that
great
survived
great
into the
cameo.
24th century.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and one of the main things that he was famous for voicing was Smokey the Bear.
Oh, he was Smokey the Bear?
Yes,
Cool.
he was.
Only you can start forest fires.
And they wouldn't even have to age him that much because he's so into all of these drugs and things. So he
Yeah.
could have just like
Well,
been really good at
his
upkeep.
death was publicly ruled a suicide.
Harry Mudd or Roger C. Carmel?
Carmel, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, wait.
Investigated by police, it was considered a narcotics overdose.
Oh
Oh,
shit!
Jesus.
I thought it was like heart failure they died of.
Well, originally they had it listed as hypertrophic cardiomyopathy as the cause, but then his death was later publicly ruled a suicide, but was initially investigated by police as a narcotics overdose.
Oh,
So originally they thought it was an overdose, then they ruled it a suicide.
Oh. Okay, Jay Lewis he corrected me. It was Sherry Lewis that wrote Lights of Zetar. We wrote the Mark of Gideon. Mark of Gideon wasn't a great episode. Sorry, Stanley Adams.
Very good. And hello in the chat to Brandon, the anime guy. He says he loves Harry Mudd and his women. And Harry Mudd is also in trouble for flying without a master's license.
That's not true. I have a master's license.
Incorrect.
Since
I
it was
love that. I
revoked.
love that computer.
Mhm.
Lost that tin-plated
Me
pot.
too. Major Barrett is great.
You know,
That was
keep in mind
Major Barrett. I guess.
Yeah,
that was
she did
Major
the voice
Barrett.
of all the computers. Keep in mind, everybody, that's supposed to be a computer, and this was the 1960s, where most computers were like the size of a refrigerator. So I
That
think
was the only time you see it. Like you see like the waves. You see the waves moving as the computer's talking. I think that was the only time we ever see that.
The oscilloscope, yeah.
Oscilloscope, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Jill.
Well, okay, Gorilla says, with space so big, why do you need a flight plan in an asteroid field beyond Mars? Well, it's just a standard thing that you got to do as a pilot for normal airplanes on Earth. So it makes sense that you need to do that also for the Federation.
It's like
part of Earth.
And there's random things flying through space. Our new telescope was already impacted by a random asteroid or a rock.
Exactly. If you want to be safe in space, you've got to know about debris.
There's a lot of space debris out there.
That's why the
just
Enterprise
like a single thing could kill you.
Right. That's why the Enterprise has a deflector dish.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to be safe at all costs, because space is more hazardous than anything. That's why they have all these rules and regulations.
Agreed. And he says you could materialize in the middle of an asteroid field or supernova.
And you know what's another thing that was interesting? The one thing that Harlan Ellison accused the show of being was Roddenberry depicting the Enterprise crew as policemen in space, and this was something that was debated between him and James Doohan on, I think it was Tom Snyder, in the 70s. There was an episode where they were on, and he was accusing Star Trek of being a police show instead of a real science fiction show. He was obviously not happy. He had a lot of issues with Star Trek, especially the fact that they really rewrote his episode, City on the Edge of Forever.
Are you talking about the show that was on late at night, right?
Yeah, Tom Snyder. So
yeah, he was on late at night after the Late Show. He had him. There was
DeForest Kelley, James Doohan, and Walter
Koenig. And Walter Koenig, yes. I remember I got in trouble for having the TV on late at night when it was on that night. My stepmother yelled at me, "What are you doing? Everybody's in bed." That show didn't come on till like 11:30 at night. It was after the Tonight Show.
I was just watching it randomly on YouTube, and I was reading like the comments. It was interesting. It was a very interesting talk.
They were all smoking on air in front of the camera, which I thought was odd.
Between this episode and Arena, I mean, it kind of supports what Harlan Ellison said about the show, where the Enterprise acts like policemen. You know, like, you know, if you see a ship there. They certainly do in
this episode. I agree.
Well, I think Gene Roddenberry was probably disagree. Gene Roddenberry, he didn't like the military aspect, right? Whenever they try to militarize the Federation, that's the reason why he didn't like.
Why would he not like it when he bases it on? He bases the entire show on military.
He does
Navy
of the Navy, the naval.
You know? Yeah, right.
So I don't think he wholly dislikes it. I think he just wanted to create his own version of it that is futuristic, more peaceful. I think he wanted to upgrade the military, not demolish it.
Well, and he wanted a command chain that was recognizable to us, the audience. So I think that's why he used familiar terms like lieutenant and colonel and captain and all that stuff.
General quarters.
Yes, and Mudd here reveals that he assumed Leo Walsh's name because he was supposed to be Leo Walsh was his pilot, but this pilot had died, which is a little fishy, but we never exactly figure out what really happened with Leo Walsh.
They should have asked him, did he die naturally?
Well, you know where they got the name from? One of the directors, Sean and Chris Penn's father, Leo Penn, was a director of several episodes of season 1. And so they named the character, his name is Leo Francis Penn. So that's how they came up with Leo Francis Walsh.
Cool.
So
then he says he's on his way to planet. Oh crap! I don't know how to pronounce this one.
Ophiuchus.
Ophiuchus. Thank you. Ophiuchus 3, to send the women there to be wives for the lonely men on that planet. All the while, those same women are having this delirious effect on the men in the room, raising their respiration, perspiration, heartbeat, and blood pressure.
Which, right, it seemed to be like the first thing that Captain Kirk would say is, I want these women removed. They're interfering with this.
They really do. They interfere with all of
right. They're tricking
the whole ship.
That's what they're doing to the men. They're trying to trick them while this thing's going on. And that would have been the first thing I would have done as the captain. I would have taken them out of the room knowing they had an influence over the men like this.
And but I guess Captain Kirk is a bit embarrassed about the effect that they're having because he has Spock strike all of that report from the record.
That last statement, right.
And the reason these effects are occurring still hasn't been revealed, even though we know it's the drug, but they don't know that yet. But we do know that Mudd is going to be handed off to the authorities soon. And Eve is begging Kirk to help, when at the same time the last crystal goes out and they have to deal with batteries. So the ship's on batteries until they get to Rigel 12. And Mudd thinks that this is a great opportunity for himself and the women.
Oh, your beautiful ship.
Eve, Ruth, and Maggie, they're supposed to be able to, now that they're going to Rigel 12 instead, Harry Mudd's changing his plans to have them marry the wealthy lithium miners, who ostensibly are going to share that wealth with him too. And while that makes sense, what doesn't really make sense to me is that he also believes he'll be able to take over the Enterprise too.
he'll be able to buy. He thinks he'll be able to buy it, or I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Well, this is what crooks do. Gamblers, they always think is that day's going to happen where they're going to hit rich, and they always find out they're wrong. So it
Yeah.
totally makes sense. And he's probably done this before.
Does it? Even though hijacking ships seems to be his thing, I really don't know what makes him think.
No, he's not talking about hiding. He's talking about he can be so rich that he can buy this ship. Is what he's acting like.
I just loved it. James C. Kirk, the next stories you'll be taking is from Harcourt Fenton, puts his legs up, mud, and then he does his laugh, evil laugh. I love the music. I love the music that ends the scene. True,
that was a great laugh. You guys are kind of raising the score that I had. That I was kind of this episode.
That's literally it was a wacky little, it was a cute little wacky little scene ender.
Well, and we do have our mustache twirling villain, right there.
He's not. I don't consider him a villain. He's like a cartoon. He's like a
right. Well, he's a villain, but he's harmless. He's not, like I said, he's not a murderer.
Especially unlike his Discovery counterpart. Oh my god.
Oh,
sorry. I'm sorry. I said no word.
That was despicable. I saw birds.
Yeah, no crap.
Yeah,
no crap right now. I'm gonna get upset because I really loved Rainn Wilson, and I don't really like his depiction.
All right, will you strike that from the record then?
Yeah, strike that from the record.
Yeah, Rainn Wilson, I heard, was in Galaxy Quest. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Rainn Wilson is in Galaxy
Is he one of the
Quest.
nerds or something?
He's one of the aliens. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know Tony.
He's not really much in it.
Good, because the less I know about that, the better. Because if I focus on it, I'll end up not liking him. So I don't want to do that.
What? No, he's great.
Well, because of Discovery. That's the only reason why.
Right.
Discovery, right? Because of Discovery. Anybody who touches that, I tend to lose favor for.
He's Dwight from The Office. He's not Mud.
You know, it's funny. I never realized it, but he also played another sitcom actor from the old show Just Shoot Me that David Spade was in the 90s. One of their guys was one of the aliens too in Galaxy Quest.
The lead Thermian.
Yeah. I forget his name. I forget the actor's name.
Yeah, I forget his name as well. But apparently he just gets foisted with so much praise in regards to developing that alien race.
Well, one of these days I'll have to talk about Galaxy Quest because that's one of my favorite Star Trek movies.
Movie. That's a great movie.
Yes, fantastic stuff. And Ruth is visiting sick bay. And at first, of course, McCoy is infatuated.
And there's that shot we saw from the transporter room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that. So good call on that.
I guess they didn't have the shot they needed for that particular moment. So they just used something else within the time that they had. I guess they didn't have time to do anything else. They had to release it.
Yes, and I wanted to note too with this actress. I think she was very awkward in that dress. Because in the Star Trek bloopers, there's a scene where there's an accidental, what do they call it?
Wardrobe malfunction?
Yes, yeah. There is in the bloopers. And you can see her kind of tugging down on it, trying to hide it. And people start laughing. That's one of the clues.
That's mean.
Yeah.
I guess she didn't have enough glue.
Need more double-sided tape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, instead of laughing, help her out. What the heck?
So this is when she passes in front of the medical scanner and it goes all bloop.
Yeah, right. They're in sick bay and
it's like a music box. It's like boom, 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 boom.
Right. Well, normally the doctor would be emphatic about her getting back on it, but he's too apparently swept away to really focus. He tries, but not very hard.
She does. The actress is playing sort of adorable, coy, sexy,
Pet and mouse,
she's like, "Do you want to examine me?" And McCoy is basically just like, "Oh, I wouldn't trust myself," which is not something you want your doctor to say.
No, and he really wouldn't. It's not a Starfleet thing. It's the drug.
Right.
It's the drug.
Yeah, literally. I think what he literally says is, "I wouldn't trust my judgment, but please get back on the scanner."
Yeah,
but he's trying to keep it together. And remember now, she's out on a scouting mission. Mudd sent them out on scouting missions for information.
Right.
Yeah, so the scanner, it activates, but in a very strange way. So she does walk in front of it again,
So the question is either does it is unable to read her, they never explain why, or
No.
does she have control over it?
I think it was the drug. I think it was the drug that she took that caused the scanner to do that.
That's possible. It would
I,
have been nice if they
yeah,
would have
but
explained it.
how? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I always thought they were alien. When I was a kid and I saw this episode, I always
I
thought the
thought so
women were
too.
aliens. Like they weren't human. I
So
mean,
did
they
I.
weren't.
That's why I thought it acted wacky.
But now I think they're just humans that just took a drug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if that equipment is not sophisticated enough that it's somebody to know that it's somebody under the influence of drugs, it just doesn't make sense. They would know that these days even, but I don't know. I think it's a might be a mind. Here's the scene you're talking about, Jill.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, with the grading.
Well, and I think that, and this might be in the Inside Star Trek by Justman and Solo. This was there was a suggestion from the producers to the director on this episode to sort of sell it and show as many colors as you possibly can, as many dynamic camera shots as you could, because NBC claimed to be the first full color network, and they wanted to show off the lighting and the colors and everything like that so that they could sell TVs. And that's part of the reason why this one was considered as being one of the pilots, is just because it was visually striking.
I always
And
loved as a kid. I loved just the color. I just loved the way it looked. It was
the
just it
gels.
looked so alien to me. Maybe it's because I was born in the '80s and I was a kid in the '90s. Hearing the music, seeing this type of visuals was just, to me, it was just awesome to look at. I don't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes like that when they showed that grid or whatever that is in between them, sometimes cinematographers will put props in between actors to add depth to the scene.
Well, and also a visual representations of the separation between the characters as well.
A separation, her being mysterious behind a veil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
And
she
they did
says,
something. They did something
um,
similar in Better Call Saul, where they had the two main characters like split across the screen, just to interpret how their lives have completely diverged from each other. So it's interesting what cinematographers come up with to convey ideas, and I think it's beautiful. Half the time, most of the time, it's beautiful.
I
I
agree.
hate shaky cam though.
Even though this isn't really one of my favorite episodes at all, but it's beautifully shot, and
It is.
I for an episode I don't really like that much. I took way more stills than an episode I love.
It's interesting. It was exactly I referred to what Scotty was talking about. Is they were really pushing color televisions back then. That was some of their biggest sponsors. Bonanza, the Western, was put on the air just to sell RCA televisions. And the reason why, similar to Bonanza and Star Trek, the reason why the actors wore the same clothing in every episode, it was much cheaper, and plus they could combine shots and use shots from different episodes and put them together and show things out of sequence and you wouldn't know it.
So that's why they made the show really colorful compared to other shows at the time.
Pop, the colors would pop. That was their instructions. You watch shows of the days, IP Machine, all that, the colors just popped. They were saturated.
I like that.
It was all, in fact, at the beginning of the shows, the following show was brought to you in living color on NBC. So that was the selling point.
And now everything is blue. Meanwhile, Eve was sent to seduce Captain Kirk or distract him, saying funny things like, I read once that a commander has to act like a paragon of virtue. I never met a paragon. But she actually does like him, so she doesn't like doing what she's doing, so she backs off. And yeah, so she backs
Which
off.
I like. I like this very much. This right here
I like
gives
it too.
depth to her character. Yeah, she regrets what she's doing.
Yeah, I forget how she puts. She's like, "Oh no," she's trying to seduce him. Then she's like, "Oh no, I don't care what Harry Mudd says. I do like you. I really do." And
Right. She doesn't want to use somebody, and she doesn't want to be used this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
this is where her character changes. I do like it too.
Yeah.
And
the other two have no problem doing,
Mudd's, they're perfectly happy. Yes.
Mudd's will.
The two younger ones.
Hmm.
I like how it was. This is Ruth. No, not Ruth. This is I forget
Maggie?
Maggie. She talks like this. Where's the drugs, Harry? Yeah, that's my impression of her.
I noticed. I think she has an accent.
I think
Mhm.
she's from Sweden.
Yeah, it was not enough for me to try to catch, but I think she had a slight accent.
Well, and it
Definitely European.
seems, yeah, it seems like Magda is overdubbed. There's ADR on that to sort of lose a bit of the accent because Ruth doesn't. She's obviously the audio is coming from the same room, but Magda, I believe, a month before this, was a Playboy playmate before this episode was aired.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
And what month and year was that? Asking for a friend? Just
Asking
kidding.
for a friend. My research didn't go that in depth. I apologize.
Just kidding.
So Ruth reports here that there are 3 minors for them on the planet named Ben, Gossett, and Benton. And Eve comes in. She's upset with what she's been asked to do, and she's just over everything. But before this scene continues, though, yeah, there she is, just upset.
Mm-hmm.
I
Forlorn.
think it is time. I think it is
Mhm.
time for her.
Yeah, it's time.
Look at those eyes. Jesus. This guy's got the buggiest. He's got the buggiest eyes ever. I know, even when I was a kid, I noticed this too.
Yeah, right. But on the bridge, they're approaching Rigel 12, where they'll need to pick up 6 crystals to run the ship. McCoy didn't examine Eve because she didn't want it. And now he's actually questioning whether they're actually really beautiful or just acting beautiful or if they're an illusion. And that's pretty amazing how close he gets.
Well, and I like this sort of interaction between DeForest Kelley and William Shatner, just in terms of having, again, developing that sort of friendly relationship. And Bones really has Kirk's ear in terms of this, and it is a medical situation, but McCoy sits there and says, "Is it just that they're acting beautiful? No, wait, strike that." And I like that sort of him trying to negotiate what he has seen and what his own thoughts are, but bouncing them off of Kirk. And even there's a certain point where he says, and Ruth just makes my scanner go bloop, and Kirk's like, I don't know, I don't follow you. What is going on? Tell me again.
And I like how Spock is listening in on a conversation like this.
It looks like he's enjoying it. And I think what happens too is I think it's the further McCoy gets away from them, he's able to think more straight and logical. That's why he's able to think now, which he wasn't able to do in their presence.
Yeah.
He didn't trust his judgment in front of her. Now, I just love how Spock, or Nimoy's character, the way he plays Spock, he just gives off this, he's amused this whole episode.
Well, I think they're also trying to keep it light. It's almost like a humorous episode.
And also on the bridge, we see that the Enterprise will make orbit, and that it will actually be able to sustain this orbit for 3 days. So they should be fine in getting the crystals. But so they arrange to beam up a representative. But back to McCoy's intuition, that gives him the idea that they're illusions. The truth of that is revealed in Mudd's quarters. So they finally make it to Mudd's quarters. And it turns out that the women are actually different from what they appear. And there's the planet. There's Rigel 12. So that's where the question is: have they always looked like this? Do they always look like this? Is it just a matter of their attitude or
willpower?
How much of the drug is changing perceptions, or
it's probably the
have
drug.
no freaking idea.
It's probably the drug doing that stuff to them.
Mm-hmm.
This could be their anti-drug message.
I can't.
60s were big in the drugs were big in the 60s.
I mean, that what did George Harrison say? We thought drugs were good for us. Smoking was good for us.
But yes, they all start to zombie out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a point where doctors were prescribing LSD and meth John F. Kennedy was a meth addict. His doctor was regularly giving it to him.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, injections. He was really into it.
And here they are taking the pills so that they can, feel beautiful or be beautiful or whatever. That's
feel
really
good.
the problem I have with this episode is the science fiction aspect of these pills are just not explained properly at all. And so I
No,
have
they're
no
not.
freaking clue what the hell's happening.
More magic. That's why I was saying like an aphrodisiac. It's more
Yeah.
of a like
Mhm.
a legend.
Yeah.
Take it, Evie. It's not a cheat. It's a miracle.
Yeah, right.
That tells you how many times I've watched this episode. The fact
Yeah.
that I can quote
You're
this.
you're great. You're welcome on the panel anytime.
This
just to
is the
quote
scene the
entire
blooper is
episode.
out of. This is the scene the blooper is from, where she accidentally had the
That's hot.
malfunction.
Oh,
That shot there, yes.
Poor
The one,
lady.
the one in the green.
and there's
I like how it sparkles.
Bill.
They add like a little animation effect to make it look all sparkly instead of it being a typical gummy bear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. But then we get a different. Well, this isn't a pill, but this is the crystal, the lithium crystal that was destroyed. The last one that was in the ship. That
Even burned and cracked. They're beautiful.
Yeah, it's a shame. But of course, Kirk says that it's not a shame because they saved somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And the miners arrive while they're admiring this destroyed lithium crystal. And they're asking to trade the crystals for Harry Mudd's freedom and for the women. But Kirk refuses this. The miner warns. Go ahead.
I just like how Kirk just sort of laughs and is like, okay, is there anything else? Like, what else do you want?
This is not a joke, Kirk.
Yeah.
You beam it down a party, you won't see one blessed crystal.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that whole planet. There's only 3 men, I guess.
Yeah, right?
It's just Ben
This
and
was 3 men.
Herb and I forget the third dude's name.
And Claude Parrish is here. Hey, how's it going? He says the women were just taking cosmetic enhancement pills. Maybe if they had hired other actresses to play normal girls, it would have been believable.
Well, and there is some thought towards it that I've seen. Again, no facts. This is a no fact zone for me. Because Magda and Ruth are so into it, they allow the drug to wash over them. But with Evie, she doesn't really need it. She just has low self-esteem, so she takes it and she believes that it makes her better. Something like that.
Yeah, and that's possible too.
And that's why they sort of fugly up
Like-
these women as opposed to Evie, because as you mentioned, Pop Culture Curator, Evie does look a little bit older, so they just didn't make up her. They probably powdered her down to soften how she looked on screen and unkempt her hair. But the other women, it was all like sort of rubber cement and prosthetics, or not prosthetics, but overly maked up to look gross.
Right.
Yeah, because
the hair,
I guess that resembles their personalities.
Well, it even affects their hair, their hairdo. Her hair
That's-
was all black and stringy and everything when she was like
Maybe
that.
she's born with
take
it.
the pill and the hair looks beautiful
Maybe it's
again.
Venus drug.
And I have a question. Is it Claude?
Well,
Claude? It's Claud. That's usually Claude.
well, Raquel says
Sorry.
Claude, so I say Claude. So I'm
Okay.
just following Raquel.
No offense, Claude.
I love her.
Or, you know.
And then hello in the chat. Well, what your explanation and Claude's,
Hey, Phil.
Scotty, is the best explanation we're going to get. You did perfect. I'll have to just note that. Yeah, hi Phil. It's a participation trophy pill. Performance enhancement, I guess. Irene Ryan as Evie.
No, Irene Ryan was Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh, ha, okay.
I do know that name.
I was confused.
Their granny.
She
I'm
was a
glad
very
you-
sweet. I'll have a quick mention too. She died right after the Beverly Hillbillies went off the air. She created a fund for struggling actors. She was very rich, actually very lucrative. She did not have a family. So she created a fund for struggling actors, grants that they could apply for. My brother applied and got one. Sorry, go ahead, continue.
The miner warns that refusal will mean that he won't help Kirk find his crystals. But Captain Kirk reminds them that they also need medical help. They're all alone on that planet. They need cargo. They need protection from starships. Mudd, however, still thinks he can use the Enterprise's dire and imminent need for the crystals as leverage to get what he wants.
I just love how he says, "You will bargain sooner or later. You'll have to." Like that.
You do a really good laugh for that.
Maybe I should be do my own version of number 2 from the Prisoner. You know how every episode ends with a different actor doing his own version of the laugh.
Yeah, you'd be a great number 2. Neat. I've seen most of The Prisoner. I still need to see the last couple episodes.
I'm not a number. I'm a free man. Something like that. Something.
There's an interview with Patrick McGowan about that, and fans were asking him, and he basically in the interview said, "People are reading way much into that, more to that show than I ever intended. I was not planning on doing any of that. So, a lot of what's going on with The Prisoner is what people have put in their own minds."
Sure. And Claude. Oh, okay. So it's Claude. It's pronounced Claude, which Raquel would still pronounce as Claude. So
Yes, that makes sense.
okay. See, I was just copying Raquel, but if it's Claude, I'll say Claude. So, and J.D. Lewis says, this is a mundane episode raised many levels by Roger C. Carmel as Harry Mudd, Jerry Binnerman's photography, and Fred Steiner's score.
I agree
Steiner is
completely.
my favorite composer of the original series. Like he brought the cello. He really brings the cellos into the fold.
Right, and I agree with his entire statement here. Roger C. Carmel is a highlight as well. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, totally agree.
For me too. This is certainly not one of my favorites, but
should
hearing
read
you
up-
guys talk about it makes me like it more.
And
I
that's
should
a
read
great
up more on
observation
Jerry
from
Finnerman.
Claude right there. I like that observation from Claude. 60s actresses playing 40s girls in the 23rd century. Yeah, even the music, the saxophone, and the way they're walking, it's like from a 40s movie, right?
Like a speakeasy. Like like they're in a speakeasy about to dance.
Oh, and they are on the planet. It seems like the miners are getting what they wanted, except that Evie really isn't in the mood for any of this.
Yeah, but that guy's a jerk.
Yeah, he is.
Ben Childress.
True. Also true.
It's like I have enough crystals to buy queens. And
Well,
then
I'd
Kirk
say
comes
he's
in.
very skeptical. And he's dressed like a cowboy.
Yeah, he's dressed like a cowboy. You see, I wouldn't even notice a thing like that, but yeah, thanks.
It's like, we're busy, Mr. Kirk. And then she won't dance with him, so he dances. He cuts in on someone else.
Right.
And the other guy who got cut in tries to cut on the other dude, and then that begins a fight.
Right. We all knew that was a matter of time. That's naturally what's going to happen, especially if the drugs are involved.
Oh yeah, and then of course we learn that the other two guys get married by subspace radio marriage. I was like, oh no.
Well, and this is where the episode sort of takes a left turn for me, because Evie is obviously not. She's signed up for this, but I don't know if she signed up for this particular planet. She's being affected by the
That's what I was
dust
gonna ask.
storms.
What would you guys say, in your opinions, the reason why she ran out was she disgusted at what they were doing? She gives up? Or you think she's not getting attention like the other girls because they're younger?
Well, like
Probably.
it was said
Probably a
earlier, she
combination.
did consent to the trip, but now that she can rescind that consent at any moment, and that's what she's doing here. She doesn't.
I'm
She's
curious-
not really into it anymore.
I'm
Well, I
curious
think she's
about like the
realizing
whole.
I think
sorry.
she's realizing too that this is going to be her entire future, and I don't think she wants to live like that.
I'm curious. I'm curious if like they knew ahead of time, kind of like online dating or online mail order or whatever. I'm curious if she knew who her spouse was going to be on the Ophiuchus planet, as opposed to this getting completely side trip to this.
So the question is, were
thing
they
that
already
she doesn't
sold?
know about?
So were they already sold or reserved by a buyer? In other words, right?
Yeah.
They didn't mention.
Well,
that.
I would think that because the scheme is hatched to sell the women to Childress and Company, and I don't think it's where Evie wanted to go. She just wanted to escape her farming planet where it was only her and her two brothers, and then she's taken somewhere worse. And during the journey, she is given the Venus drug to make her more beautiful and confident. But then she doesn't like what Harry Mudd is asking her to do. She doesn't. She sort of resists the drug. She even says she's not pleased with herself. And by the time we get to the settlement or the Rigel 12, she doesn't want to be there, and she's looking down the barrel of a life that she doesn't want.
That's the life she escaped, right?
Well, but then she's like, so are you guys going to fight and the loser gets me? And it's like, okay, hang on a second.
That's what I was worrying about is because she's older than them. That's what I was worrying because the attention was on the two younger girls. I was thinking that may have been part of it. I don't know if jealousy was played a part of it or not.
But that's why I think it kind of takes a left turn and she goes a little bit too sappy, if you will, because she sort of refutes the advances and then she gets mad because no one is hitting on her. And it's like, pick a side.
Well, her brothers were a good point. She's going from taking care of two ungrateful men, and then that, and she decided she wants to have more in her life, and then she just ends up with this guy who's just another ungrateful guy.
Right, and just living in some shack somewhere, right in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
No different than her serving her brothers.
That's what I was saying. She's back to that, even cooking and everything, right?
And her comment.
Now that I think of it, I'm thinking she has a darker backstory. Like she might have been because two older brothers forced to do these things for. I'm curious if it was like a borderline abusive. That's why she wanted to leave. When you said above, that she wanted to escape from her brothers.
I think it's kind of like a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
And I think it was just an emotional outburst. I don't think
the loser gets me. I think that's what she says.
I think she's just having a bit of an emotional outburst. Not really that she believes exactly what she's saying there.
No, it was definitely an emotional outburst. According to, I'm looking at Memory Alpha right now. It says she's conscience stricken. According to her.
Yeah, because
that's what I was saying earlier. She was probably maybe regretting what she's doing.
So. The other two women are having a great time. They enjoy what they're doing, but she has a different perception of what she wants and what she doesn't really like the drug anymore. And so she runs away onto the planet.
Well, not only that though, but ideally, let's say if everything would have went fine and they would have been sold to the three miners, and then the ship would have left. They wouldn't get a lifetime supply of those drugs, would they?
No.
She would have known that it was a matter of time before the men found out the truth, right?
Right.
And by then they would be stuck on that planet. And they don't know what the men would do. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point. And she's upset. She runs out to the planet, but Kirk and Spock, they're just like, we need those crystals. So they start scanning with their infrared scanners, trying to find the crystals because they need the power of their ship.
If I may, I was thinking too, usually, he's a smuggler and these are mail order brides. Usually in a mail order, at least in these days, in a mail order situation, they're usually paid for up front because it's usually the buyers that paid for the entire trip and all the fees to get them there. So it seems like there would have been deposits put on these three women by the original planet, Ficus. By the way, Ficus must have a lot of plants. Sorry, go ahead.
That's a good point. Yeah, we never find out what happens to the man on Ficus or what kind of transaction. But this is Harry Mudd. He's just going to be like, oh, no refund. Sorry.
That's what I was going to say.
He'll disappear. He'll just disappear and like, hey, I got your money. Too.
Right, just cheat them. But it would have been nice if Kirk would have asked him, who's funding this? Who bought and paid for the ship? Who's funding this trip?
Well, first rule of Star Trek: don't trust Harry Mudd.
Yep. Correct.
I liked how Kirk kind of snaps on Scotty in that earlier shot.
I liked it too.
Because Scotty's like, we need the crystals. Like, I know we don't.
I didn't get them. I should have found a way.
Satisfied, Mr. Scott. And then he apologized. Mm-hmm. But then afterwards he apologizes. He
does, and I liked how the acceptance of Scotty. He's just sort of he just gives like a slow nod and then continues on with the business at hand.
Yeah.
And like, I never remembered the weight of what was going on. It's like, orbit's deteriorating, shields are going down, we need the crystals. And it's just like, can you give me 5 seconds? I'm having a smoke break. Go away.
Yes. And I have a
You're
question
not
for
supposed to smoke on the bridge, Scotty.
right.
Well,
And
I know.
I have a question for everybody. Do you, because I haven't found it yet in what I've been looking at, have they established yet if they change the lights on the ship according to daytime? Like right now, is it darker because it's supposed to be night and Kirk is tired? That's why he's
No, I
rubbing
think
his
this is
forehead
because of
early?
the lack of the crystals.
Lack of the crystals?
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. I agree.
Power
Fair.
going through batteries and whatnot. Oh, there's an
Yeah.
iconic shot. Speaking of the old VHSs, isn't that
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful.
Meanwhile, back at the homestead.
I'm glad you guys had stuff to say there because I had no notes for any of that. Yeah, so Eve is on the planet cooking for the miner named Childress, who doesn't really seem very appreciative. He's like, I can cook too.
No, but
But
I think I think one of the things that was great about what they did, the writers did, is when he brought her in, he was not a cad. He treated her nicely, laid her down, and she slept.
True.
And he went to the other side of the room and slept. So they clarify he's not a cad. So I like that.
Well,
He's not
and
what again? I'm sorry. I
a
didn't hear
cad.
that. A cad? What's a cad?
That's a nice
cad?
way of saying a molester.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
A
Right.
handsy fella.
Oh. I
But
guess.
he does. He sort of, and it made me question. That's why I think this guy's a jerk. He's like, I didn't touch you. I didn't do nothing while you were
I
asleep.
didn't touch her. The moment they come in, he's like, I didn't touch her.
And then
Right.
they come in and he says it again, and it's like, do you have a history, Mr. Childress? We have to. What's going on, buddy?
Claude says Roddenberry said no money in the future. Yet
Well, I
it's
didn't mean money per se, but if I mean, obviously he had things to gain because he's talking about getting rich off this, right? He's talking about the value of selling these women
Mhm.
and everything, and the value of these men are rich because they mine lithium. So there is a value
Right.
of some sort. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because this
No,
is
no,
not
there
the
definitely
Federation.
is. Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Maybe this is not the Federation, but they deal with the Federation, and then
Correct.
the
I think
Federation,
so.
right? And the Federation, which means the Federation has to have something to trade in return, right?
hmm Well, and that's the economics of Star Trek is such a deep topic to try and delve into. But I always thought that when Roddenberry said no money in the future, he was referring to Earth and a brighter future for humanity. And as the Federation expanded, obviously there would still be economic structures within the Alpha and Beta quadrants, and you'd have to interact. Even at the beginning of this episode, Kirk says we're prepared to pay an equitable price. So there must be some sort of there are many references throughout the original series where money is involved, but I think that's just dealing with external cultures.
I don't remember if they
That's
ever
possible.
said it. Like, did they ever say in the original series that there was no money? The only time I remember ever hearing them say flat out deny there's no money was in
TNG.
Star Trek
TNG.
4. Was in Star Trek 4 when
Oh, yeah.
where they're at dinner. He's like, "Don't tell
Mhm.
me you don't use money in 23rd century." And Kirk's like, "We don't."
Oh, but in City on the Edge of Forever, when they go back to New York, they say, "Oh, they're still using money. We're gonna have to.
Oh, okay.
We'll steal from the rich and give back to the poor later."
I just love that whole I love that whole segment where they try to explain Spock to the police officer. The police officer
Yes.
is like, "What the heck?"
Well,
Oh,
in
he's
Star Trek
got
4,
caught
when
his-
the in the pawn shop, when the guy told Captain Kirk that his glasses were $100, and Kirk
Is that a
said,
lot?
"Is that a lot? Is that a lot?" Right? He said, "No." Okay.
What does he mean?
It's
Exact
enough.
change.
Yeah.
It's enough for some Italian food.
You
You
know,
like
one
Italian?
possibility
No.
is
No,
one
Yes.
possibility
I love
is
Italian, and so do you.
And so do you.
Yes.
what if the possibility that they don't exactly say out front, but in the future it's credit, no cash, and that's why they don't understand what coins mean or $100 means, or maybe it's
Possibly.
all credit, because our society now is trying to get to that. They're trying to
Yeah.
eliminate the dollars and try to get everybody onto credit, and where your value is your worth, which is yourself, which is your bank account, and everybody has access to it. So maybe that's their ideal of the future. I don't know.
I don't know either. Lenrod says money is just barter, simplified using a common currency. Clearly, barter still exists.
It always will, and they'll always have commodities. Even if they don't have money, they can trade them for other things. Like
Yeah,
Captain
trade.
Kirk said, well, we won't have any more ships coming, no medical, nothing like that.
Mhm. Right. exactly. That's what the Federation deals in, is their services, humanitarian wise.
So do you guys
And
buy the the whole Orville and the whole money is reputation?
oh, you know what? That was in the back of my mind while we were talking about this, was when they explained that in that episode of season 3 of the Orville, where they talk about how reputation is their currency.
And what if like
And
social media, cancels somebody
Mhm.
despite all those years of building up reputation for it to all go down?
Yeah, that would be the Orville adopting principles from the planet, the Twitter planet. So that would be really weird. I don't know. That would be probably a good episode if they wanted to do something like that. I don't know. Because they say as long as you're living your life, a certain way, that you'll have a good standing socially. I don't know. It's kind of a complicated thing that they really didn't get that much into.
Yeah, and I know the writers of Star Trek tried really hard to avoid this as much as possible. That's why
Hmm.
they barely ever talked about it.
Right.
They
And
don't
I
fully
know,
understand it themselves.
in my opinion, I know, and I reviewed Orville with Jill, and when we got to that point of season 3 where they start speaking about that, I turned my mind off at that point because they were pretty much 100% straight up socialists. So I thought they were writing what their ideal future is, not necessarily what our future could be.
Well, in a way, the way that the Orville got into the future was through the replicators. The way that Star Trek started in the future was warp drive. So
Yeah.
the replicators in the Orville provided a sort of way for people to continue to exist without really having. They don't really have to work, but they want to because it's what's accepted.
Did they ever
And
mention how they
that's
established space
really.
travel
But
in the Orville?
I guess
Sorry.
um, that's a good
I don't think
question.
so. I don't
Not
think so.
yet. That's
Just
going to
how
be
they
in
how
the.
they develop quantum drive. No,
Well,
I
we
don't
don't
think
know
so.
if the Orville's canceled. If it's canceled, they're going to do movies. If it's not canceled, we'll get a season 4.
As far
So
as I
we
know,
really don't
as
know.
far as I know, the show is over. The way the show ended, or the way the season ended, as
Hmm.
far as I'm concerned, the show's over.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
really
and
want
that's
to see
fair.
Mocklins anymore. I don't want to see any more Mocklins.
Well,
I don't want to see the same characters again. I'll put it that way. As far as on the ship, yes, but I don't
yes,
want
I
to see
know.
the the subplots. I just don't want
Well,
to see those
it's
same
kind of weird
subplots
to me
again.
because I'm kind of mean to the Orville season 3, but you're even you like it even less than I do. But I
Well,
actually do kind of like some of it.
but
I mean,
like
I
we said
enjoyed.
before, it stopped expanding. The show stopped expanding in season 3 and just like looked in on itself and just started rehashing their same stories again.
Yeah, and I enjoyed this penultimate episode, but
Hmm.
I don't agree with the direction that they took. They kick the Mocklins out, but then they bring the Kalon in. They bring the Kalon in. The Kalon
Right.
were the existential threat. Now all of a sudden they're the good guys
Now they're
within.
best friends,
I'm
and
just
there's
like,
no
what is
trouble at
this?
all with the AI that could at
Or
any moment turn
I'm
on
right,
them and
you know what
and
I
destroy
was
like
all of
expecting? You know what I was
everything.
honestly expecting from this? I was expecting like the Dominion type of thing where this would be drawn out, and
Yeah,
this would be like something that would be feel earned.
but
This
really, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
this episode, just the Domino episode, which was awesome in
Hmm.
terms of what they showed, I just felt like this whole thing wasn't quite earned. Like I just didn't like. I just didn't agree with the direction they decided to take
Yes.
with the Kalon,
Yes.
and all of a sudden
I,
make them surrender with this weapon that came out of nowhere.
yes.
well,
Absolutely. There was no build up to any of it, and it was just a whole bunch of filler episodes that,
This was just their way of making a finale
and it
well,
wasn't that some of
because they
them
didn't
weren't
know if they were going to
fun.
continue.
remember the writers are not very heavily experienced. Most of them come from cartoon backgrounds, and the reason why most of them had the job is because they're friends with Seth MacFarlane, not because of what their talents are or their background. And it's
Yeah.
like writer of the week on the Orville. They didn't have a pattern set. Something
I know they
most
had
some things they
Brandon
did.
Braga and Andre Bormanis for a few episodes. I don't know if it was Domino. I think Domino was Seth MacFarlane.
Well, Andrew Bormanis is on hire as the science consultant throughout the series, so I don't know how much input exactly that he had, seen as season 3 kind of lacked in the science department quite heavily.
I mean, he was the one that explained the whole idea of the quantum drive. If you ever go on YouTube and listen to
Absolutely.
Orville, like he's the one that explains the concept behind the quantum drive and how it's different from warp drive.
And
So
and the science in season 1 and 2 is phenomenal. So I know that he had a lot of influence there.
I agree. It was a little better the first 2 seasons.
It was Star Trek. That is Star Trek to me, seasons 1 and 2. And I feel like Seth got himself stuck in the corner in a war plot line that he didn't want to be in. And that's probably why he didn't spend so much time in season 3 building it up or cultivating it. He just wanted to get it over with. And so
one thing
we spend the whole season waiting and waiting for this to happen. And then when it does, it's just this one episode.
Lackluster. But something I
love that. I love Domino, but yeah.
No, I mean that it didn't come to the satisfying conclusion that we all wanted, is what I mean. But something I read a few weeks ago, I don't know if it's true, but from what I read, they said that when McFarlane first approached the network, he wanted to make a serious show. And the network, the only way they would sign him on was by if he said, okay, I'll put comedy in it too. But I think what happened, right? So I think what happened was by the time they got to season 3 and Disney gave him full reign of the show, that's why he dropped the comedy. He wasn't under the reins of having to do comedy by Fox anymore. Even though I know there was a lot of people in the fan community saying, "Well, I wish he'd get back to the comedy. I miss the fun." But I think that was his clear decision. He didn't want to. I think he was trying to.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
Thing about season 3. Jeez.
Sorry.
Okay, well, this is becoming an Orville podcast about.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail it that way.
No, that's okay. I would love to talk about it more, and I do want to talk about the Orville again. It's a thing where I still like the Orville.
Well, maybe if it gets renewed, maybe there'll be a season. Right. Let's see if it gets renewed. Maybe there'll be a season 4.
Anyway, but I do need to carry on because I gotta get out of here like in less than 30 minutes. So I want to say hello to Mr. Brown Alliance and continue with the episode, but let's put a pin in that later.
And also, I just want to shout out Kevin Tenno, Cavalryman Shea, is Susan Denberg's Playboy Playmate, August 1966, for educational purposes.
Well, thank you there. I'll tell my friend.
Thank you, Cav.
Hello, Mr. Brown and Linrod.
Ahoy, Mr. Brown.
Linrod's been here. Yeah. The balance in season 2 is better than 3. Yes, I agree completely. Season 2 was perfection of the Orville. But I love season 1 too. My favorite episodes are in season 1. But this is not an Orville podcast. I just said that, and I'm still talking about it. I clearly still love the show. Otherwise, I wouldn't love talking about it, even if I have issues.
That's okay, Jill. Go ahead, Jill. Go ahead. We'll let you finish this.
So, but when she, okay, so she shows she wasn't into the dancing, but she is into this domestic part of it. This life that she knows how to live, and she's cooking for him, and even though he's not really appreciating it at this point, and she's teaching him about how you can use the wind outside to clean the pans. So she's trying to help him with his life here. He's kind of a dummy.
I think he might appreciate it. He just doesn't want to let on that he appreciates it.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Well, like with the food, he tells her, I could have cooked it pretty much. Then you could tell he's impressed by the way it tastes.
And she's like, I couldn't help but scrape like 15 leavings off of your pan.
Right.
It's like, well, bring some water and we'll talk. Well, why don't you have the sand outside blasted clean? Oh, you didn't think of that, did you?
Always technology and no dish soap. Okay.
Well, there's no water for it, apparently.
Well, yeah, but then they'd be dead.
Right. I know they have water, but I mean, it's probably rationed.
Right. You probably have ships come in, but I mean, just like bathing, you figure dishes would be a priority. Oh, that'd be another question. She probably asked, when was the last time you bathed? If you haven't washed your dishes, okay.
I just love how he's like, ooh, female cooking. Oh.
Oh my God. You guys make this episode way richer than it really is.
And I suppose
look at those round cards too. I was like, look at that. They still use typical diamonds and spades and everything.
Yes, and I've seen those cards for sale before.
Yeah, and he doesn't know how to play cards either. So she's got a lot she can teach him.
Well, and I think that's part of the why at the end of the episode she decides to stay, and part of the change or the perceived change in Childress is that this is the sort of domestic part where they're learning to appreciate each other as equals, as opposed to, and it goes
Yeah.
on to show that when she takes the Venus drug, quote unquote.
Exactly. I agree with that entirely. Well said.
It's and she outright says it. But now her beauty is fading with the lack of the Venus drug. As much as not wearing makeup can make this woman's beauty fade.
I like
Ben is
how he
still
responds.
ugly.
He's like, "You're not even good." He's like, "You don't even you look." I forget how he puts it, but he's like, "You don't not only do you look like this, but
You're
not even
homely."
good company." He's like, "You're not even good company." He's like, Well, she's like, "I'm tired of you." And he's like, I could buy with these crystals, I could buy queens. And then they walk in, he smacks the cards out. He's like, I didn't touch her. Didn't touch.
Yeah, and in here, Mud explains how the drug works. Well, what it does is give you more of what you have, whatever you have. Well, with men, it makes them more muscular, women rounder, men more aggressive, women more feminine, and that's
Yeah, that sounds like a description of an aphrodisiac. Censored version.
Beer goggles, the drug.
Did you notice like how Mud actually did care about her safety? He's like,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
goodness you found her. So he wasn't. I didn't consider him a real villain. I mean, he was just.
Well, to
like
him,
you
it's
said,
the
he's an
value.
opportunist.
Remember, right? But to him, it's remember she's property, and value. He doesn't want to lose the money. So I'm sure that's the top priority. in his
Okay,
mind.
that's probably it too. But I kind of saw some humanity in Mud. I wanted to think that there was humanity in Mud. So yeah, you could be right though.
I thought he was more of a foil than a villain.
Yes.
yeah, it's
And
an
a
interesting,
hilarious one at that.
interesting thing for me because I don't wear makeup, and I don't know. I don't know if that's relevant, but anyway.
Nope. Some
Apparently,
people don't have to, Jill. That's totally fine. That's called natural beauty. Natural
well,
beauty, right?
I don't know if I actually have that, but I just don't want
Oh,
to.
come on.
I'm sure if we asked your husband, he'd say yes. So
Yes,
there.
of course he would. Yes, he
Of
would.
course.
You're
So
right.
there.
Okay. Apparently, though, the other men were married by subspace, like it was mentioned before, but I guess they were fraudulent marriages so that they can get out of them. So what was even the point of having them? And I guess for the transaction purposes. Eve's character cycle comes full circle here. As she takes the Venus drug and admonishes Childress for not really wanting a life partner, but just someone who is beautiful but useless in as a someone to live with. And it really appears like the drug has worked, but it turns out that the drug was just a placebo. So Eve's
Colored
beauty,
gelatin.
yeah, was really just her attitude, I guess.
You either believe in yourself or you don't.
Yeah. And so it looks like Eve actually will have a husband after all. But we don't ever find out the fate of the other two women. But Eve is the only one of the two who rejects the superficiality that the drug affords her. And somehow, so does Childress because he sees her beauty anyway, even though the drug isn't working, and sees how they can work together, I think. Anyway, the Enterprise gets their crystals.
I love this final thing right here with Mud. It's like, if you leave me on this planet, it would be punishment enough. He's like, I can't do that, Harry, but I will be a character witness at your trial. I'll throw away the key.
Yeah, I like that exchange.
I love
that.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Final thing from them.
Yeah. Right. They'll throw away the key. You're right. But I think that Spock has the best quote of this entire episode, which, you guys made me like this episode more than I did watching it alone. But I feel like Spock does and I agree with him when he says, I'm happy the affair is over. A most annoying, emotional episode.
He was amused the whole time, too.
I know. And we also learn that Spock's heart is not in the same place as ours in this episode.
Here. Inside.
Inside.
According to McCoy.
Right.
Dun, 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 dun,
Harvey
dun.
Hart directed this one.
Dun,
Okay.
dun, dun.
And while I think we might have actually come up to a Star Trek episode I'm not really that all into, I gave The Cage an A+, Where No Man Has Gone Before got an A, and I gave The Carbon Night Maneuver an A-. But, I wasn't really feeling this episode all that much until I hear you guys, expound upon the production and how, you remember the lines, and you have upgraded my C+ to a B-.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, what's
So,
interesting is, yeah, when we started the stream, I
mhm,
voted a C, but
mhm,
now after us reviewing it, I give it a B.
yeah, right. I went up too.
Yeah, see how right
Only,
here it says, they split the writing credit between teleplay and story.
mhm,
It's to
good.
Roddenberry.
So that's my score, and we got Pop Cultures. What are y'all's final thoughts for this episode?
I was thinking I'm sticking with it because I do enjoy the episode, but it lies squarely on the shoulders of Mud. Um,
Yes.
there are some neat character moments, but the power was in you all along. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it's just like, yeah, okay, fine. You had the power to be awesome all on your own, and
Yeah.
whatever. So I
Yeah, I
still
know.
I still give it a C. I still give
Well,
it a C.
right, and then you
And
got the
that's fair.
and you're getting the anti-drug message. You don't need the drug to be, who you are, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's really not much science other than the use of the drug to alter the perceptions, physically or mentally,
Allegory.
which is weird because I give the Lorelei signal a higher score because I think that they did that more believably. And
Well, and speaking of the Lorelei signal, just in terms of Uhura's central role in that episode, apparently, according to IMDb, there was an exchange between Harry Mudd and Uhura, where Harry Mudd is trying to convince her to take the Venus drug. She's intrigued by it,
oh my
and
god.
Roger C. Carmel said that he was disappointed that that was cut just because it was a fairly long, just sort of character interaction between Mudd and
Wow.
That would have
Uhura.
been interesting, to be honest.
It would have been, but I think I don't know why they would have cut it for time or whatever, but it
I would
could have been for
I would have to ask
stereotyping.
though, how would the drug improve her? She doesn't need it. The other women,
Oh
it looked
my
like they didn't
god, I
look like they
know.
needed
She's
it.
so gorgeous. She's a
That's what
goddess
I'm saying.
already.
Yeah, what would the woman? What would it do? Just maybe turn up the magnetism because she was already beautiful. The other women used it like a crutch to look beautiful.
Hmm. Well, and
And
I think that
be like Star Trek 5, where she's just like she's dancing and everything.
yeah,
That's what the drug would do to her.
just breaks out into song
uh,
arbitrarily.
Pretty
maybe
much.
make her look younger,
Oh
like
yeah.
the
Right,
older
she'd
lady.
start singing. Um, I would love to see the script for that. I guess it doesn't exist, but that sounds interesting.
I'd give this episode a B+. I really when I was a kid, I really enjoyed this episode. It was one of the earliest of the first 10 episodes production wise. This was one of the earliest episodes I owned. I thought I really enjoyed. I think this is. I don't know if you guys agree, but I think this is the best of the Mud episodes. Of between this and I Mud and the animated show Mud's Passion. I just loved seeing the women. I just loved the color of the episode. Fred Steiner's score is excellent.
Hmm.
Cinematography is great, and Kirk is just awesome in this episode. Like he's just he's a captain. Like he further. I mean, you really see this in Carbonite, but then you see this even more. You see this almost as much in this episode too. So he's not an idiot. Like he's good at what he does, and this is just a build up to him being the iconic captain that he is.
Well, he's already hit his stride. That's what we were saying earlier. That the show hit the ground running, which is fantastic.
Yes.
A lot of shows don't do that. Usually, they take a lot of tweaking. Like TNG took a whole season.
Yeah. But it's a shame for a good Trekkie to admit, but I forget what the Lorelei is that episode's about because I'm not as big of an animated
that's
series
okay.
fan.
No, the Lorelei signal is the episode where her takes command of the ship because there are these sirens who attract the men to their planet so that they could drain their life force so that they may live forever. So it's like they're
Okay.
like They're like these immortal vampires.
Yes, and if you haven't seen the animated, well, I highly recommend it and check out our reviews.
Okay.
Mhm.
I've
That's
seen the
very good
animated show.
episode.
I just find it annoying that every other voice is either Majel Barrett or James Doohan. That's the only issue I have.
Well, this
that's-
episode heavily features Nichelle Nichols as the voice of everything.
So when you
Women-
hear a different voice, like you hear, Roger C. Carmel as Mud or Stanley Adams as Cyrano Jones, it's nice. Or the other actors. It's nice to hear the other actors. I'm just sick of hearing James Doohan.
Well,
I get
it
it.
was
Majel
it was
Barrett.
it was a budget constraint. It wasn't.
I know.
Right.
Yeah,
When was the last time you watched the animated series?
several years, like at least 4 years, 4 or 5 years.
Okay, maybe you'll.
I
see a
have
different
the
light.
Blu-rays. I still haven't even opened them up yet.
Gotcha. Let
Yeah.
us know if you ever do.
Okay.
I want to know if there's any extras that we don't know about.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're always welcome for that panel too on Mondays at 7 p.m. if you ever have any time there. And hello in the chat to John Rendell.
Ahoy.
How are you doing? And Captain Time Lord agrees. Emotional episodes are indeed annoying. Yeah. So when I heard that line, that got a huge laugh from me because that's how I feel about things like this. But this was, it's the original series. You gotta love it anyway. And yeah, hello to Apex Comics. Hi, Jill, panel, and mighty chat.
The mighty chat.
And Dalek451 says this was a very silly, kind of cringe episode. Yes.
Agreed.
And I agree, yes, of course. When was TAS made?
Pop Culture? 74?
It aired
70
in 73, 74, so I'm
Right.
guessing 72 and 73 when it was actually made.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was aired in 73, 74. I'm guessing 72 and 73 when it was actually created.
And Apex Comics wants to promote his Apex Comics morning show tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with Rich Perota who inks The Roaring. And there's a link to that. Great. And then I think I'm going to close the poll here because I always forget to close the poll. So I'm going to end it now so I can copy the results. What grade do you give Mud's Women? 43% give it an A. And 43% also give it a B.
Ooh,
Which-
neck and neck.
Yeah, which is where I ended up as a B minus. I was
And
going
I
to
ended
give
up
it
from a C to a B, so that would have been a
Yeah, I know.
different number.
I upgraded it. I had it at a C plus. When
Can't we
I was
ch-
going to say C for Canada Day.
There is,
Ah.
once we vote, we can't change our votes. Is that right?
Canada Star Trek Day. Canada Day is a different day.
Very different. Both involve William Shatner, though, so it's great.
Right. Once we cast our votes, we're not allowed to change it. Is that correct?
That's right. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's all right.
And 13% gave it a C, which was my
That's-
original score.
Yep.
Up to you. And nobody gave it a D or an F. That's good.
You know, it's interesting, yeah, because when I voted a C, it was 50%. So that's how much it changed.
I voted it an A initially, but then based on our discussion, I lowered it to a B.
Mhm. Yeah, you lowered your score. I raised my score.
Well, and Nerdporio, thank you for sticking to your guns on loving the episode. Like, it's so nice when you're doing these sort of reviews with people, and it's like, this is one of my favorites, and it's like, oh my god, and it switches around so much. Like, I can't wait because I'm going to be one of the idiots who says that Spock's brain is like a 10 out of 10. So
Spock's Brain's one of the second tape I ever owned after Spacey, so I got Spacey and Spock's Brain at the same time.
I
Those are the
don't
first two
entirely
ever
hate
owned.
it.
I like the variety of opinions. I think
Yeah.
it's excellent rather than everybody agreeing. That gets boring really fast.
Brain. But you
What
have
is
none.
brain?
What is brain? Controller, is it not?
Yeah.
In the way it is. It's right. In the way it is.
Yeah, and I do admit it's cringe. I mean, there's a lot of episodes that were sexist. I do admit that.
But I love the brain surgery in Spock's brain.
So
yeah,
do I.
especially when Spock is telling him what to do. He's like, "Oh, never let this down. This Vulcan is telling me how to operate."
yeah.
Bones.
And
Fet for
hello in the
hire.
chat to Fet for Hire. I don't know if I've seen you before in my
Hello,
chat.
Fet for Hire.
So awesome to see you.
Ahoy and welcome.
He says Maggie Threat should be Fet's woman. Hubba hubba.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was Mud's Women.
That was Mud's Women.
Yeah. So, if anybody wants to plug their channel, this is a part of the show where I say pop culture. I couldn't be more grateful to you for reviewing Star Trek with me. We also review the animated series on your channel on Mondays at 7 Central, and review TOS here again at 11 a.m. Central. Next Monday on your show, we'll be reviewing the animated series episode More Tribbles, More Trouble. So we'll have Cyrano Jones.
Yes, thank you, Jill. It's my honor. I really appreciate it, and it's nice to be on the panel with such great guest co-hosts, however it is, and the chat is something to be envious of. You have some great people there on the chat, and I know you've heard this over and over and over, but for those of you the uninitiated on my channel, I have a video of who is the father of Star Trek. If you'd like to check it out, a little bit of hidden history that a lot of people are not aware of.
And a great video too, man.
It is a great. I do like it, and then it brings up questions without giving you the answer, and that's my favorite part of it. And so,
yep, I leave it up to you to decide.
I do like that. And also, Scotty R37, thank you for joining me too on this show.
Well, thank you for letting me play. And so now that we've gotten my Star Trek Day out of the way, when we return on Thursday for actual Star Trek Day, the real one, Jill and I on the Phantasmagorium are going to be reviewing, because we're starting up a Quantum Leap show. Right. And just because it was the first leap that we want to acknowledge, we're going to be reviewing Broken Bow from Enterprise, because Bakula.
Scott Bakula in Enterprise and Quantum Leap. But, for my audience, we really don't have to explain that. They know exactly what we're talking about.
True story.
And so that's how we're going to celebrate Star Trek Day. I can't wait for that, too.
Really looking forward.
And Nerdporeal Lifeform, thank you for joining me on this panel.
Oh, thank you for having me. I know I kind of just came in the chat, and I kind of asked all of a sudden, you didn't have to even respond to me, so I'm really appreciative of that. I really enjoy your weekly talks about Star Trek. I mean, it's just something that means a lot to me, and it's really hard for me to pay attention because I'm big. I have major attention deficit disorder, so like, even if it's something that's kind of interesting, I will lose interest and I'll find something else to do. But
I understand that
these panels, because they're talking about TOS, is something that means a lot to me, and I really enjoy all three of your discussions. You guys know what you're talking about, and I really enjoyed having the conversation, adding to the conversation. Like I can quote TOS, especially season 1, to like, you guys want to get rid of me.
No, never.
I'm annoying enough that you want to get rid of me.
Awesome.
No,
I enjoyed it.
That's when it turns into an improvisational sort of live reading of each episode. We just bounce back and forth, and it's like tennis. It's great.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely okay with that.
Great to meet you too, Nerdporeal. I've seen you around on the chats and such, and so it's a pleasure to speak to you. And I'm sort of the same affliction. Like I have attention deficit, all the things that I have. Yes. And the only thing that I can sit still through is Star Trek. It is my favorite thing. So.
Yeah, great channel, Nerdporeal. I guess you're also a Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul fan out here.
Yeah, I was really happy with Better Call Saul. It's one of the few good shows, and I mean, there's been no negativity on the Better Call Saul side of things.
No, I heard some people were disappointed with the last episode, but I liked it. I thought it was a good conclusion.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people were disappointed with the last few episodes of the season because of the pacing. The pacing completely changed because they went from prequel to sequel. They went from
I was going back and forth. Yes, all over.
And then they cut back and forth between the Breaking Bad era and the Gene era, which is years. This is after Breaking Bad, post Breaking Bad. So, but yeah, the finale was great. I just wish they would have built up to it a little bit more. I felt the last couple episodes before that it just felt like not much is going on. It didn't feel like how Breaking Bad propelled itself to its finale. So, but it's not the same show, so you have to expect differences.
I agree it didn't have the pacing, but I guess what kind of fogged my vision was because I had Carol Burnett. So
Oh
that's why
yeah,
I was very
Carol Burnett.
forgiving. Yeah, she really raised up the quality.
Yes, she
It
did.
made those episodes worth watching.
Yes,
I
she
hope
did.
she gets
I
an
totally
Emmy.
agree. Oh
Did you
yeah,
hear?
me too.
Did you hear that there's the? I guess her name is trending. I guess they call it, where they're trying to get her on Saturday Night Live, possibly.
Oh, wow.
I did not.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I
she did an
still.
interview. Larry King asked her when a while ago when he was alive. He asked her, "So why haven't you ever been on Saturday Night Live?" And her response was, "They haven't asked."
If only
So who?
Saturday Night Live was as good as it was then.
Well, what I have to say though is I remember the concerted effort to get Betty White on there, and I love Betty White, and I thought, okay, I had at that point I had not watched Saturday Night Live in years. I thought they weren't funny anymore, but I watched the episode with Betty White and it was terrible. So I'm kind of in a way, hoping Carol Burnett doesn't do it because sometimes you can't go home again. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. But on my end, I mean, right now, I finally finished my. I don't know if any guys in the chat heard the Nintendo, but I finished. I was working on a Nintendo 64 Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time retrospective, which is probably my largest project I've ever done. All three parts make up about 5 hours, and I'm putting together all three parts and making it a full thing, and then I'm going to do that. But my next major project is something more in line with what this chat would like. I am actually, my next retrospective is going to be about the original Planet of the Apes.
Cool.
So I'm going to
That'll
watch
be
the
awesome.
movie, take notes, and start researching the background of the movie and, of course,
Wow,
its impact.
I'm a huge Apes fan. I saw them at the theater ever since I was a kid. When they first premiered, I remember big
Oh, yeah.
Apes fan. Even the TV series, I wasn't not a big fan of the remakes very much. They were all right, but oh yeah, the old Chuck Heston, down to
Oh, yeah.
him getting poison ivy. I mean everything.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh, a lot of
But
behind
like
the
that
scenes
movie is
history.
so quotable. That movie is so quotable.
Right, it was filmed in Malibu Canyon, right there where they filmed MASH later on.
Okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know that actually.
Yep, that location is still there. There's like an old rusted out Jeep sitting there.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
You cut out his brain, you bloody baboon.
Yeah, make sure you keep up to date with us. Let us know, and I'd like to be there for that show, so I could be on the chat and listen.
Okay.
That's another.
He
that's
has
a movie.
he
That's
has
a movie
premieres.
Right, that's a movie I have memorized. Is the original 8 movies, the first 5.
Dr. Zara, how about a kiss goodbye?
Yeah,
okay,
you're so
but
damned
you're so
ugly.
damned ugly.
Or you're so damned ugly.
I love that movie. And then
or
The
when
Simpsons.
They asked
I'm gonna definitely include The Simpsons. There's moments in The Simpsons where he's just they're quoting the hell out of Planet of the Apes.
Well, I think what really boosted it was because Rod Serling had tweaked the screenplay, so a lot of the credit goes to him. So at the end,
he was responsible for the twist, I believe, at the end.
Yes, it was his idea. Well, that idea, if you remember, it came. They originally had that same twist in a couple original Twilight Zone episodes. But when the scene where Taylor rides off with Nova on the horse down the beach, and the young kid asks Dr. Zaya, "So what will he find over there? His destiny."
His destiny.
Which I thought was an excellent line. Yeah, that's totally mysterious for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to do it. Can't wait to start it.
Charlton Heston did not want to do the sequel at first. He wasn't into sequels, but they finally convinced him, and he said, "Okay, I'll do it, but you don't have to pay me. Donate to charity if you want to, or something."
Yeah.
Right. And only if I get to push the button. That's what Heston said.
Yeah, I know.
The only way I'll be in that movie is if I get to push the button.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that second movie, geez.
Ahoy, Carla.
Yes, hello in the chat to Carla Burton. And
sorry,
actually,
Jill's running out of time too.
And I'm actually an enormous Legend of Zelda fan, but I actually still need to watch your videos, and I'm looking forward to watching them. They're going to be really fun. And that was a big part of my childhood.
Are they?
I am subscribed.
Mm-hmm.
Are they playthrough videos? The Zelda?
No. It's a retrospective. It's like the whole story of the Ocarina of Time.
It's basically from start to finish. It starts with my thoughts, how the project got started. I go through the story, commenting on it. Then I talk. I have a friend. I interview a friend. My friend gives his story, and yeah, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. It's like writing an essay.
It's great. Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that format.
It's a video essay.
I'm going to watch that. And Carla Burton says that she bought the Quantum Leap DVDs as soon as Dean Stockwell died.
Same boat.
And that was recent. And yeah. So that's our show today. And let's see what I have here. Then
Oh, I have a request.
Sure. What's your request?
Two things. First things first, I want to see Tim Russ combing the desert, and then also I would like to see the RM Briggs promotion.
Oh, those are great requests. Yes. And thank you everyone for joining me today for my review on Mud's Women. I love the help I got from Pop Culture Curator, Nerdpoil, and Scotty. It just added so much to it that it made this episode so much richer for me that I like it better than I did when I walked into the stream. So thank you guys for elevating that for me. And
well, thank you for having me for Canadian Star Trek Day.
Well, you're welcome. And so I love those requests because I love Raquel Briggs and her short stories are really great. And so we'll leave off on her short stories. And also I'm going to play the preview first. First I'll play the preview for next week. Next Tuesday we're going to review The Enemy Within. So we're going to get to see a little doggy in a unicorn outfit. And so that's going to be fun. And so I hope everybody has a fantastic Tuesday. See you guys later.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Captain's log, stardate 1672.9. Due to the malfunction of the ship's transporter, an unexplained duplicate of myself exists.
What can I do for you, Jim?
I said give me the brandy!
Come on, Spark, I know that look. What is it?
Well, our good doctor said that you were acting like a wild man.
Oh, Captain. You started hurting me. I had to fight you. Fisher saw you too.
It wasn't me.
It was you, sir. I'm Captain Kirk! I'm Captain Kirk!
Thank you, everybody.
Being weird.
All right. Have a good night or have a good day, everybody.
See you later.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you, Jill. We're still live? Oh.
We are. Live long and prosper.
Take care of the chat, everybody. And thank you for joining us. Hit the like button if you enjoyed and liked what you saw.
I've been acting for 35 years. 135 credits on IMDb. I was in a long-running series. You might remember it. Star Trek. But all I'm known for is combing the desert and saying, we ain't found shit.